we got to fix it. But I'm recognizing that, you know, in conversing with you. Already from your conversation, I see holes, you know, that from an argument, from a legal, lawful argument, you've got multiple levels that you can argue already. Your language has to change because you have to know the difference between the courts and the natural beings on multiple levels. Like we see Raleigh said to the Moors, 14th and 15th Amendments not necessary for the salvation of my people and citizens. You have to know the legal implications of that statement, or not just those verbal, but actually in this law process, which is really part of what's taking place with you even right now. And immediately, the enactment or the enforcement of Constitution and treaty principles should come into play. And so when you mentioned Moorish American, that was like an entry without the substance. It's like giving a bag or presenting a foundation for an argument, then not presenting the details of the argument. Expecting them to just assume, you know, that the jurisdiction and issue concerning jurisdiction has changed because you mentioned that. And while it is, if you don't clearly address the specifics, they're not going to address it because it's not in their interest. Because keep in mind, what they're trying to do, even the way they set it up when they even started issuing you the pension, the way they set it up by not, when there's two levels or two determinations, military and non-military, they mark either one, they left that open to injure you later. And that's incompetence on the part of the secretary. And you shall be held not liable, because that's fundamental in contract law on any point. So there's really nothing to argue. And really, if the lawyer's any good, which you shouldn't need one, being Moorish American, technically he can't represent you anyway, if you hold a point. Because the consul or grand chief's supposed to represent you. You were supposed to, you know, present yourself. Or if you represent, it would be by consul, not counsel, by consul. And because the U.S. corporation is in treaty with the Moorish nation, and that's the foundation of their actual existence, they're obligated to you. You ain't damn obligated to them. You know, these are just fundamental stuff that Moorish Americans should know. But of course, a lot of things, when we get into these types of problems, a lot of those problems exist because of the great sell-off that nobody wants to talk about. And so what happens, Moors are suffering in a lot of areas that they shouldn't be suffering. Like these things should be easily resolved. As soon as you said you're Moorish American, as soon as it's obvious that they didn't categorize you one way or another, there's no way that a liability should put on you and then they garnish your pay for some misadministration of either a clerk or whoever the original administrator was that signed anything. Because if you were in the military, logically it's military. You understand? Now, if it's non-military, the benefit is still by virtue of you having been in the military. Other than that, because they're not just going to throw a pension out to anybody that's ain't been in the military, you know. So they're implying an injury or something like that, you know. But the deal of it is, even if it's non-military, it's still based on your military service. Either way, you've earned it, if you get the whole point. Now, the deal of it is if an administrator, if you have two classifications or categories upon which a contract is extended to a benefit, and the clerk or administrator does not post either one, but then the contract is executed on the basis of military service, then that is what it is. And if you've been going to military, you know, VA, which is, you know, Veterans, you know, Systems Association, etc., you know, that's apparent, and that speaks for itself. Logically, from a justice perspective, who can make an argument to the contrary, particularly without a valid claim? Now, if they cause an injury to you, who's your accuser? It ain't the VA, because the VA is a corporation. Corps can't speak. You know, and these are fundamentals that have to be taught to our people because they don't understand the corpse was created to slay the dead, the living.
So an individual within it.
That, and they must testify both to their authority, cause, etc. And they made a judicial determination. And did you ever talk to them? No, you're talking VA. Do you understand what I'm saying to you?
Yeah, they have different representatives.
I don't care who they, no, see, we're talking principle here. You know, what we have to do is get away from both emotionalism and get away from how they have been normally dealing with our people. They've been normally dealing with our people because our people don't know what the court says. You know, they don't know the function of the 14th Amendment. And so they're operating just everyday survival type thing. You know, and they're dealing with instruments the way they have been presented to us. But the instruments themselves are flawed. A person doesn't know that, like say a person who's not national, who haven't been taught nationality, even if they're intelligent, don't know how to read those things. You know, because you're just operating, you're working from day to day, you're doing stuff from day to day. And when it comes to the real administrative operations of government, most people are not familiar because most people are held under the 14th Amendment and don't know that they're under the 14th Amendment. They're not even aware of what, you know, they're just living, breathing, and doing, just like for instance, they send you an instrument as a bill. The average person that's not a national don't even know that you don't get bills, you get statements of account. And they're two different instruments. And that you can't pay bills. They're discharged in your name by some corporate entity for the benefit of somebody who did it for you or to you. Now that's how things really work. And when you're nationalized, you're supposed to be taught these things so that you can understand you're not in the Negro category. The Negro category is Christian property. Negroes, blacks, and colors. That's Christian property. It's not human beings. It's Christian property. The 14th Amendment is the corpse designed to disguise bureaucratized slavery.
Is that why they call you a corpse?
That's what it is. It absolutely is. The 14th Amendment is a corpse. The corpse was created to slay the living. Yes. In other words, when Joel said in the divine warning by the prophet for the nations, and he says, help me in my mission to bring my people back into the constitutional fold of government, enforcing our Constitution of the United States of America. So then nationals are supposed to know that that Constitution is derived from Muslim law. And I suggest to you that most people read that and don't recognize that. That he gave them a whole slew of power that the people have not yet used. This is what's called the Great Sellout. Do you understand what I'm saying? Right. This is again why Obama went to Egypt and exposed that the United States Constitution is derived from Muslim law. At the same time, his wife, instead of being presented with him, she triangulated, went to the Alhambra, last stronghold of the Moors. Then they came back and they signed the rights of indigenous people for these people to declare their nationality. And then he made sure they took pictures of him coming through the double doors with the Moorish flag to the left. What else could you say?
You said Obama?
Of course. Meaning it's like this. People who don't know can't see things in their face. Meaning that you can say certain truths, you can do certain truths, and present it to people. It's sort of like, this was like, say if we just left Atios, right? Oh man, I'm hungry, man. Now you already know that we just got these raps, right? Now raps in here. Man, I'm hungry, man. Well, what our people need is dessert. And I ain't eating the meal yet. This is sort of how the people are looking at us, the nationals from around the world. And they get the impression because our people lack knowledge. They have a lot of emotionalism. They got a lot of beliefs. They just ain't got no knowledge. And our people have been trained to take their beliefs as knowledge, which has injured them consistently. But they refuse to give up their belief systems because they think it came from Jesus, God, Allah, and Muhammad. It came from the folks of Rome.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's hard to get them to render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. They make these statements, but they're only empty statements. They never examine what they're really saying. They never looked at where they fit in this thing. They just think because they make prayer, salat, and all that stuff that they in good with God type thing, and it's mental babysitting.
Right.
You know, and the slavery has been, which is used connotatively, has been institutionalized via the 14th Amendment. Etymologically, corporation means corpse. And then they give it life. That's why a corporation is called a person. Persons branded Negro, Black, and colored are registered in the state of Delaware as Christian property as corpses, chattel corpses. Thus, you know, barristers of England via the Treaty of Verona speak for them. That's why they say, shut up. And they'll even put lawyers on them. Now, them not knowing their own history and law, don't even know what's taking place that they're on an auction block. They sit around talking about they're free. And this is the general concept with our people overall. We talk about even intelligent people. And because it's bureaucratized, they're going about other methodologies just to live and survive and not knowing that this is an operation the whole time. That's why 90% of the time we lose. As a matter of fact, even with them garnishing your pay is because you're on the wardship. They've accepted, that's why they list you as a Negro. Because if they list you as a Moor, that would be a violation of international law. And they're pre-obligated. So your argument, like what you said, you're arguing this, but that would be secondary. The issue is misclassification and therefore a violation of your rights and liberties. Because keep in mind the law.
And they already said that. When he first went down there, she said, I'll see you or a Moor. And you came in 1972. So you're saying that, but you treat him as...
All right, now see, everything, this is, now,
Yeah.
you have transcripts of all your communications, even with her? You got transcripts of that?
The lawyer does, not physically.
Oh, gosh.
But it was done on tape.
Well, let me say something to you already. Because you got to get, first of all, you got to tie your sons. Barristers, lawyers, their mother party is the Communist Union. Their job is to overthrow the Constitution. So Moors, free Moors can't be represented by them. You can use them as advisors pro bono, and you can direct them because of the process of the auction and claim the estate of the straw that they're dealing with. The instrument that they sent you had all capital letters on it, didn't it?
No.
See, yes, it did. You're looking out the window. No. Yes, it did. I'm telling you, yes, it did. Because your language is telling me that you're not totally schooled in what nationality is, and I understand it. Because you have to understand how things operate. For them to do what they do, they have to have an estate straw to do it, because they can't do it to a human being. And they can't do that to you and acknowledge that you're Moorish American, so they have to list you as a Negro to get away with it legally. Do you understand? A Negro or Black?
Yeah.
Now, knowing that, that's where your attack is. Forget, in other words, it's sort of like, forget, you're not dismissing, but forget the argument about the money, because you're not handling money. They're moving against your estate. Those are movements against your estate. And status and the estate are equal in law. Being Moorish American, you have right of claim to your estate. Did you make the right of claim to your estate in your communication with that lawyer and with the representative of the VA? Then you should. That's number one. Put it in writing. You know, so the first thing you're going to have to do is take control of this bull. See what this is a bull running around in here right now. This is basically what it is. So even though they loosed it, the approach is, they're saying grab the bull, and you're talking about the camera, because that's what they're talking about. Grab the bull, so they grab the bull, so now they have power of attorney. The bull is the straw that you probably didn't claim. I guarantee most of the instruments that they sent you, got a name on it in all capital letters. And you need to pay attention to that. You need to have already known that so you know how to approach every instrument they send you. Some they will send you written right with the capital letter at the beginning, and then small case letters, and they're talking to you. And the other ones, they're talking to your estate where they're all capital letters. But if you don't claim the estate, then they're accusing you of abandoning the estate, so now they're going to force an order on you. And then they're going to auction you. And based on that, that's why they're garnishing your pay, your alleged pay. Why? Because you have no power of attorney yourself.
So
Other than that, they can't do
What
it.
should I do?
I'm telling you right now, I'm talking to you. See, what I'm expecting you to absorb, you know, the peripheral understanding what nationality is, what it actually does. Nationality is not just historical repair. Nationality is a consciousness and a political function. And what I've discovered over years is people who both receive the information and many people who give the information violate truth by presenting it as a belief system instead of what it is, a birthright system and a restoration of estate. Historical correction, you know, not unlike what you showed me here. Now, even though the secondary dispensation, the verbiage, I don't agree with all this verbiage here, but I understand the intent. If you understand the intent here, what he's doing is basically what I'm telling him. He's claiming the estate, and he's claiming the estate because he knows by studying that the birth certificate was delivered to the postal room under the secret treaty of Verona. That's the Spanish Inquisition, the Inquisition against the Moors. And so this is where your brand system comes in. Now, so when you become conscious and you don't claim your estate, they accuse you of abandonment. The exact same thing they do when they foreclose on people. They don't foreclose in the concept that people think. You know, they foreclose on you abandoning your estate or failing to claim your, like say for instance, if they deliver a deed to you, what you're to do is claim that you've accepted and then you convert it into a loyal title. You can't do it as a Negro and Black, because the Negro and Blacks are brands, they're not part of the human family. That's an indicator that they're Christian property. Islam says.
Islam.
And when you're national, you're supposed to know that, and it's not even supposed to be confusing whatsoever. Do you understand what I'm saying? So now you step back into the other side of the seal. This is where you got your two seals on the back of the new. When it said, just like when Drawley says, being Moorish American, you are part and parcel of this said government and must live the life accordingly. Now, if you've been restored your birthright and don't live the life, then you're still in service to Rome. And this is where the Negro, Black, and colored stuff comes in. This is how they identify their property, distinguished from other human beings. How can you tell Christian property from human beings? Christian property always identifies themselves as crayons with the mentality of boys and girls. Because human beings and people who are part of the human family have nationalities. And when they refuse to recognize their free national government name and in principle, they are automatically under the jurisdiction of the barristers of England under the secret treaty of Moor of 1213. And this is what our people have been blindly calling racism. Race is the human species, which means they don't even know the same language. But they've been trained to use that as a venting argument, but it's an indicator of incompetence. And at that time, you're awarded a state. See, anyone that's not competent is immediately a ward of the state. It cannot be emphasized enough. Let me demonstrate it to you. I'm glad that, oh, can I have this paper, good brother?
Yes.
All right. Let me demonstrate to you, because you know, well, you all already know, but and it's kind of good when you have situations like this, because this is a good teaching tool for you. Or like I say like you come in, a lot of people come into this movement because intellectual or whatever. Oh, excuse me just a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Islam,
Where's the clipboard
how you feeling, good brother? Islam, good brother. Go ahead in front of you, yeah. Go ahead. Yes, I'm going to try to get them photos today, if I can. Where do you usually get them local? Where do you get them local? Okay. Oh, all right, got it covered, all right.
at? Temple 12.
It doesn't matter, you know, I just want to know local to get it, you know.
25th and Master.
All right, yeah, all right.
I ain't been there a long time.
I guess he did.
Yeah.
Yeah,
South Philly and 25th and Master used to be together. Then they split.
yeah, I know, I got the text, yeah, 4 o'clock. Yeah, I'm going to be there. I already plan to be there, bring a couple people.
Well, no, it doesn't matter.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah, it's nice out there.
Right on, good brother.
I would believe, you know, something like the sun, you know,
Yes.
You
Yeah, well, as a matter of fact, we have a class right now next to Iron Town Hospital. I'm doing a class right now, I'm talking to you. Yeah, but it's all right. But I'll see you tomorrow. All right, good brother. Please, hotel. Now, when y'all first started coming, and we was talking about, you know, and because, like, of course I go to the temple, you know, in Asbury Park. Sometimes I go to 5. I'll go to the temples, you know, because we're going to keep the doors open. But it's more or less for the people. But, you know, from a fact point of view, you know, I've outgrown that. But I understand the necessity. But I also recognize the misadministration. And this is why I like, so that a lot of people wouldn't get injured mentally and in their process of development, why certain things I would be very blunt with, as you know over the years, critical, you know, make some people uncomfortable, is because, and I'll show you the demonstration.
Yeah.
Here's a brother, Moorish American. He's national, right? And from the principle of the entertainment or the rule of law that protects that nationality, you didn't come to a temple and know more about it than he does, which is shameful. Yet you have, but in accord with the law, you come to the aid of your brother, when actually it should be him pulling you. You get the whole point, but it's a demonstration of how our people get cheated.
right.
You know, I'll get back to this, because I can't talk all day long. Now, when you went to the temple, did they maintain a school in that particular temple?
Yeah.
Did
Sunday
they?
school.
Well, that's not school.
That's it. That was it.
All right, good. Now, in accord with the charter, every Moorish Science temple must have a school. It's not a secondary, meaning that it's like, if we want to sell your car, it can look good, shiny and everything, nice spokes, wheels, looking good, must have an engine.
Right. Right.
You know, you're not supposed to sit in the driveway with your polishing and everything.
Right.
You know,
Ain't going nowhere.
and this is sort of like what happens to a lot of Moorish Americans. The unfortunate situation is this is a perfect opportunity to exercise nationality, and yet he has no tools. That's not his fault, it's sort of or misstory.
Right.
And the issue was, until injury comes, it's not even assumed necessarily, meaning the power of what it is, or how it actually functions. And this is where I see much injury happening to our people, and it's one of the motivations why, you know, I travel the country doing these ad hoc meetings, or seizing the opportunity to try to free some of our people because of the misconception of what this information actually is. And our people are injured by the day for lack of information. And it's shameful. However, I wanted to make that statement to resolve, that particular issue, when it actually should have been the other way around. Which if he's been in the temple for years, he should be sitting up there, schooling y'all on all these things. Do you understand? And now Romans attacking him, and these Romans already know they're in treaty, and that he's superior. And they treat him like a Christian slave and listed him as a Negro. A violation of international law, and he's arguing the garnishment. And they did a supreme violation. A felonious violation, and he thinking Social Security. The very fact, now, sure that's concerned if because the fiat is used to maintain your estate at the moment. But we're looking at, like he's arguing fender bender and they stole his car.
Right.
And the attention is on the fender bender, and I'm listening to him. Here's my mind. He's talking about this fender bender, and they just stole 2 cars of it. And they're arguing this stuff to divert his attention from this big thing that and then recognizing that he doesn't even recognize the legal opportunity to smash them. And this stuff they'd be glad to give him that, and they give him bonus if he knows how to approach it. Pitifully,
He got him. I mean,
this is the injury. This is the injury, and you don't need some European to represent him. He should be presenting himself being Moorish American, because he's by law, since he's national, he's supposed to already have that knowledge. So that's on the sheets and grand sheets and whoever is dealing with it. But it's also your responsibility. But anyway, let's go to simplicity. Keep this stuff simple. When you're talking that so-called transfer into your estate, because you're not allowed to have money. What they're doing, making transfers on your estate. You got an estate. What do you mean you don't need to have an estate? You're Moorish American. You see what I'm saying to you?
They don't teach that.
No, now I'm showing you to recognize the injury that's done to our people. In and out. Now he's directly involved in the order of the restoration of the birthright, and you can see his responses, because we're being honest, we're family. We're being honest, and you can see the injury. You recognize some because you know a little bit more civics. You understand? But the fact that I'm talking and he's blanked. You respectfully so. And it's shameful because it shouldn't be happening.
Right.
However, we can bring remedy. But the deal of it is, we want to make sure that you get some certain concepts that are very clear with you. Now, how do the prophet begin to uplift the Moorish Americans? Question.
Teach them to be themselves.
All right. And he says, if you don't believe that the program that I have for the redemption of my people and citizens is correct, go to those who know law. So now, if you're being yourself in law, what is the legal status of one who's being themselves in law?
Say it again.
What is the status? The legal status. All right, good. It is called in propria persona. All right? Now I'm going to show you, and this is for your own approbation, but then pay attention to its relationship. And keep in mind, we're talking about your estate that they're garnishing. All right? Right here, I want you to read this, and it goes to the next page. I want you to read this out loud. Now, keep in mind, don't read it just to know it. Now, right now, you're taking the podium. You're instructing your children. Because if you don't know, can you redeem your children? I'm going to ask you again. If you don't know, can you redeem your children?
No.
So talk like you're talking to your children and read. Read out loud because you're reading it to us.
In one's own proper person.
No, read it from the beginning. In propria persona.
In propria persona.
That's another rule. When you're told to read something, because this is another rule, because we're taught to skip. When you're reading, you read what's there. Don't skip past what you're not familiar with. Keep that in mind. And if you read past something that you don't know, you want to research it. However, for the moment, read what you see, because these is going to clear up some of your concepts. Now read it. You're instructing us. Keep this in mind.
In propria persona. In one's own proper person.
So now one who's being oneself is in one's own proper person, isn't it? Isn't it?
That's right.
So now when you look at the questionnaire in the act chamber, once you understand what that is, this is what you're going to get. And the reason you didn't get it because they didn't have a school. You see how the sellout takes place? Continue.
It is a rule.
You got to speak a little louder.
It is a rule in pleading that pleas to the jurisdiction of the court must be pled appropriately.
Must is a qualifier, isn't it? So it must be in your proper person, mustn't it? How many people know that? Most of our people don't know that. Now continue to read. It is a rule that pleas made to the jurisdiction of the court must be pled in propria persona. Why? Continue to read.
Because if pled by attorney, they admit the jurisdiction as an attorney is the officer of the court.
There you go. You're on the officer block. Do you see?
That's right.
Now, so what happens if you don't understand that that's why you're given your nationality, so that you can be a man and speak for yourself? So if you don't understand nationality and don't speak for yourself or are incapable of speaking for yourself, another man speaks for you, now subject, which you're not supposed to be subject. Do you understand? That's the lowest level of citizen. Now, being Moorish American, you're part and parcel of this said government and must live the life accordingly. Apparently, you ain't living the life, so therefore you're classified as a nigger, and they're going to sell you. And they're going to take your stuff too. So now we got to correct this. You understand? In other words, like, once you understand what nationality is, how it actually functions, it changes how you approach everything. You don't wait till the train hits the wall and then start figuring out how come the train hit the wall, because nationality is supposed to prevent a lot of Negro injuries that come to our people that out of ignorance they keep calling racism, which is really the secret treaty of Rome and the discovery doctrine. That's why you're given your nationality, to take you out of that classification, to stop the injuries. That's why I say what? When you study, he says, I've traveled south and studied and looked at my people, and it was the life they lived that caused their injury. But they don't, you have to understand what's really happening. By us agreeing to be Negro, Black, and colors, like for instance, if you knew that stuff was on that document, if you didn't know certain things, you didn't assume that it's an issue of misclassification so they could do shit to you. It's just now hit the fan now. The Negro Acts, that's what they're instituting Negro Acts on. That's why they're garnishing your pay. They can't do that to a national. That's why you're giving your nationality, but apparently you didn't enforce it. However, the fact that it is on the record, you have an argument. And you better argue it, because if you don't, you're done. You understand what I'm saying? Because as a Negro, we've got no argument, because you have no rights as a Negro. Moorish American, you got rights, international law. You're supposed to know that. You're supposed to know what I just showed you, because that's what your nationality brings to you. Now, I want you to look up status. Status. And this is back to, even if you're dealing with cases or you're trying to help people, if they don't have a knowledge of what's going on, limited what you can do. Because what the Europeans are going to do, they're going to cordon anybody that helps them off and keep them amongst themselves. And they're going to be his counsel. They're not going to let any counsel deal with him, particularly if he don't have sense enough to transfer power of attorney on his own. And then they're going to auction him. And he'd be thinking, you know, because they said this and that, and none of that is even the issue. He's going to be talking the wrong subject. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? But I'm taking advantage of this too, because it's an opportunity to teach. You know, a teaching opportunity. Because it's best when you have real situations, because then you can show how this information applies, rather than just data, you know. And this is where you get these little subtleties. Is once you begin to recognize them, you recognize what the great sellout is, and you also recognize why some people was upset with Malcolm when he found this out. And when they couldn't buy him off, they murdered him, because this principle applies to universally, where our people think it's just with Moorish Americans behind the Withdrawal. This is universal around the world.
That's right.
You know what I mean? And so all these so-called black groups are sellouts. They don't, the followers don't know that.
Right.
If you get the point.
Yeah.
Because they be thinking that stuff is, you know, because everybody's saying black and equating it with Hotep and Maat and Egypt and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And as soon as they did that, they put them under the Christian black code. They played them. Do you understand what I'm saying? When the status is everything. Now I want you to read status. Read it out loud.
Status,
And pay attention to this.
standing, state or condition.
Standing, state, or condition. Continue.
Reynolds versus Pennsylvania.
No, leave the law case out. Those are reference points. But read the substance of the principle of law. It is the legal relationship. Read.
The legal relationship of individual to rest of the community.
You can put the "thes" back in, because remember, it's law book, so it's condensed. So it is the legal relationship of the individual in relation to the rest of the community. So you're dealing with what? A position, a rank. Continue to read.
The rights,
It is the rights,
duties,
the duties,
capacities,
the capacities,
and incapacities,
and the incapacities. You got to be aware of this.
which determines a person to a given place.
All right, so now there's a class system going on, and our people sit around talking about prejudice. It's a class system, and you have a responsibility to know that. After all, we keep talking about we know what Jesus, God, Allah, Moses, and Muhammad's doing, so we certainly should know what's going on the planet. Our mothers and fathers are the founders of civilization, so we should certainly know the rules. And if you don't know the rules, you're in contempt. And we're the direct descendants of the founders of civilization, talking all kind of Hotep stuff, and don't know the rules of society. Therefore, no one respects anybody who brands themselves black in dishonor of their own mothers and fathers. This is where our problem comes in, which means these fundamentals, if you're national, you will already know this stuff. Because that distinguishes a national from private. Because it is your duty and responsibility to enforce constitutional law. It's not an option. You know, and these are principles that must be taught. And I'm just telling you that because to help you, I have to leave you with something that you can work for yourself. It's not about a followership. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? You must be capable of your own. In other words, the distinction between a minority and a national is a minority, no matter how grown they are, considered boys and girls, because they're incapable of representing themselves, so another man must represent them. At that time, they become cardboard. And if you speak, you're in contempt. If you're a national, you're supposed to be able to speak for yourself. So therefore, you're supposed to already know these things. You see the point? Now, I want you to read that out, and make sure you read all the way down the bottom, and then absorb what it's telling you, then we can continue discussing these other things, so this stuff, different things that are said to you make sense to you. Go ahead.
The legal personal relationship.
It is, put in the conjunctions. Go ahead.
The legal personal relationship, not temporary in its nature, nor terminable, but the mere will of the parties, with which third persons in the state were concerned. While term implies relationship, it is not a mere relationship. It also means estate.
So status also means estate, doesn't it? Doesn't it? Now, when they're going into your property, they're going into your estate. Did you know you had an estate? See the question? So now, if you don't even know you got an estate, then that makes you incompetent. And if you're incompetent, they're going to treat you as a minor, and they're going to take over, and then they're going to sell you out, and they're going to steal while they're doing it. This is what's happening. So our interest, and the reason you're here, is that you're trying to prevent it. So I'm trying to tell you, you need to know what you're trying to prevent. You need to know, you understand, because what you're going to do is you're going to start talking to people and you're going to walk right into the jurisdictions constantly. Like somebody tells you shit on the floor, you say, see right here, that's not peanut butter, that's shit, that's shit. And you're going to go, oh yeah, man, because if we need help, that's what brother want me. Squidge, squidge. And this is what's going to happen to you. So I'm giving you, and that's why I'm telling you to read it. I'm not reading it to you, I'm telling you to read it. So you can look at what's been happening to you and you can actually see it from a legal perspective. Because as you can see, now read that out. And then let's talk. It also means estate, doesn't it?
Because it signifies the condition or circumstances in which one stands with regard to his property.
Uh-huh. So now you see what that nigger status does? And why you're Moorish American, why Nigger Darley gave you back your name, your titles, your nationality, and he also said if you don't do anything else, declare your nationality. But if you don't know this, you wouldn't know the importance of the statement, would you?
No.
Now you begin to see the importance of the statement?
Right.
And that's been around here 100 years and people are still miscalculating what that man brought to us. See the problem? Most of them was worshiping him rather than paying attention to what he brought. And nationals and going through life, and now you're retiring and getting beat up with Negro acts. That should never damn happen. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Because you already have protection and you ain't entertaining it. Because you didn't know to entertain it. You probably just approach it because it was a historical correction. You see the problem? But when it starts injuring you, you can't sit back. You know, you're forced to act.
Yes.
Down, you're forced to act with no tools. You're forced to learn what you should have learned years ago. Now you understand when he set up the Moorish Holy Temple of Science, he registered as a civic organization in 1925. And then he later in 28 adopted a religious affidavit and he used the Moorish Science Temple as its corporate name to transact business in the state law. So now, if you've never addressed it, it's like blank. It's almost like, you know, you come here with a box of cereal, right? Box of cereal. Oh man, they got the big box, boy. You know, they're sitting up there and we sitting up here all the time. Now it's ready, we go eat some cereal. Oh yeah, man, you got some rice milk, man. I'm gonna eat the cereal now. I'm gonna go in the box. It's big and beautiful, but it's empty. And this is what's happening. Got a nationality with an empty vessel. I'm showing you to show you the injury that you have and why it's happening to you. I'm letting you see it yourself. If you recognize what you just read. I smell gas. Smell gas.
Yes. This is some research. Did something to me. Over there. Ask her.
Hmm?
I'll go find out.
That's not a good time.
I smell that.
So what do I do at this point?
We're going to discuss, but we're going to study. I told you already, even before we went there, but I want to make sense to you when I said, whatever you have, everything you have, make 3 copies of it.
Right.
Right? You want to sit down in modules. I mean, you sit down in council. And you're going to go over it, and you're going to find all the points of law that are violations, all the contradictions. You're going to get all the bond numbers of anyone you talk to. Don't be talking about no corporation. Talk about the persons who talk to you. You don't talk about people you don't know. Let them be subpoenaed. If they made a claim against you, you have a right to face your accuser. If somebody's taken from you, they've accused you of something.
That person that sat there and said,
Yeah, go on.
you were in the Moorish thing
They don't have the option to ignore that.
1972.
And the deal is, they don't have the option to ignore that, and yet she said,
Right.
according to what he said,
Right.
that's a violation of international law. But he's supposed to know that.
So you say, so in
Yeah.
other words, you subpoena the people you talk to and whose names are.
That's exactly right. You don't talk about the courts.
You talk to whoever it is.
Islam,
Those who are represented.
Yeah.
They're like representatives.
yeah,
And those are the ones you bring because the real entity doesn't exist.
exactly. It's a fiction. Y'all got papers and pencil? Huh? Can you share? Islam. Can you share? Since you're all here, let's start official. You want to start official?
Okay.
Now, I'm glad to see you all, especially sisters. And so we're going to have you participate a little bit, all right, on certain things to make sure your concept is correct, all right, about why you're here, what this is really about, and how it functions. And the reason we're going to have you participate a little bit is so that it doesn't do this. Do you understand? Some of you already know, according to the degree that you're on, some of you may be out of interest. You know what I mean? But we don't want it to go like that. We want you to function with this information. All right? Islam. We're going to open meeting. You already know about Resolution 75, right? As an example. All right, this is really interesting. Really interesting.
You need anything up
We're
here?
going to deal. That chair over here. Yeah, bring that chair over here and this and all this stuff over here. Now, yeah, this is because we're going to be passing. Now, Islam, everybody introduce yourself. Taj Tarik Bey.
Delilah Pass at you.
Makula Maddox.
J.W. Bay.
Lois Morgan Hill. That's Maya.
Right to the side. All right, Islam. Now, you know why you're here? You know what this is about in general? All right. What's it in general? Speak so we can hear because you're on camera. Yeah, you understand the camera.
Claiming my nationality that I just right.
Yeah. And understanding what it is, how it functions. Yeah. Earlier, we were actually having a conversation on its function, which is very important. But again, it's important to really not just know your nationality. It's important to know how it functions in society, why it's done. A lot of times people do things because of historical facts or things that have to be corrected. And they appreciate that and respect that, but fail to understand the legal implications. And this is where we get injured, all right? So we want to, I see the board, but yeah, we got markers.
Yes.
Now, essentially, so I'm going to write a theme. Can you get that from that angle? You can get this?
Let me try around here.
I'm gonna make an easel. I'm gonna build an easel later on for y'all to be.
Second round has one, so we'll have one for the next meeting.
Yeah, I'm a serious easel. The ones they make, like right on the board
Yeah,
goes over here.
I know what you're talking about.
You're
Yeah,
doing like
right.
that.
You're gonna be over here for a while.
Huh?
You're gonna be right
Yeah, that's fine. Principle. This is principle what we're talking about.
Ain't no black? There's no black marker?
I don't have a black marker.
No,
That's
it's not
all.
black on there.
All right, okay, all right, I'll deal with it.
Oh, because they got pink. I don't know why they're pink. Pastels. Excuse my scribble. Now, this is essentially what we're talking about. You two already have known that, but understood the nuances that function in society. This is where we're entering, and our people get aware, a little bit aware of nationality from a historical perspective, and it's interesting, and they approach it because they respect that a historical wrong has been done, unfortunately, usually looking at it just from that perspective, and then passionately wanting to correct it because it's BS. Not understanding there's legal, political, economic, and social implications every step of the way. It wasn't accidental. It was created, it's a corpse that was created to slay the living. Fact. In 1868, when they closed the Freedmen's Bureau, they created the 14th Amendment spuriously, never properly ratified. This was used to bureaucratize forced servitude, which is connotatively referred to as slavery. It was bureaucratized via the 14th Amendment. If you don't know law and history, logically the average person is not aware of that, so they don't know its function and don't take it seriously. You know, they may look at it loosely in history and then go on about their business. And it's like Harriet Tubman said, one of the most difficult things to do is to free a slave who don't know they're slaves. This is where our problem is. And this is actually what I'm presenting to you, good brother, and why I had you go to the law book rather than just tell you and accept you to accept what I'm saying. Because it is totally different when it becomes your own. Interesting. He's been nationalized how many years? When were you nationalized?
72.
72. And they're younger than, he's been nationalized longer than they're living sitting there. Imagine the injury. He's being nationalized now. Do you get the point? Because nationality is not just a political fact. It is a consciousness that goes with it. And if you're absent of the consciousness, you're not nationalized. It doesn't mean it's not your bloodline. Indeed, it's your bloodline. Do you understand? And you have an estate. But most of our people are not, as I was asking you, that they even have an estate. They don't even know what a state is. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? But I'm saying that overall, because actually I'm talking to you all, and I'm talking to him too, because we were having a conversation earlier, because we're actually dealing with some actual legal processes in the process. So that's the conversation is based in that. And it's an opportunity to teach you all certain things too. All right, now, Sister Shy. Can you come and help us and read something, if you don't mind? Now, taking advantage of the opportunity of her response, right? So everybody named themselves again. All right, so now you're going to help us out, right? Now, when you were going to school, which they do, most of us, right? They told you that George Washington was the first president, right? Now, unless you knew different, that's your perspective. Am I correct? Now, we can assume that that same perspective is with most of our people, both adults and children, right? So now let's talk about a distinct disadvantage that our people have that out of ignorance we've been calling racism. Race is the human species. You know that, right? So race is the human species. Now, so if we use that as an attitude, the word is misclassified, and therefore we're incompetent. However, we have a tendency to use it that way, don't we? Now we have no standing in law. So what I'm going to have you do, this is what we're going to imagine. All these empty chairs here are little children. I know you like little children. And so right now we got like grade schoolers, you know, like 3rd grade, 4th, 5th, 6th, like that. And so what you're assigned is as an assistant teacher. So you're going to talk accordingly, right? right? Now, all of them are under the impression that Georgie was the first president. And remember, their parents do too. They think that too. Do you understand? Now, in law, their parents are considered boys and girls too. Therefore, they will be classified as minorities, which means adults with minor minds. They don't know that because they think it means numbers. It's legal status. All right, all right? So you're going to get ready. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to do the class. And you tree book. Thank you. Delighted with your technical skills and abilities, technically speaking.
Yeah.
Now, this you will not find in your ordinary school books. However, this can be found in your documents of American history, right? And you're going to read it to the class. Now, imagine, see back there, see where the tables are? So we got about 4 or 5 children back there, so you want to make sure they're here, all right? All right? All right. Now, you want to read, and you're going to read dates and times, right? Right? Now, read that. And he said documents of American history. You see George Washington? What does he have on? What's that? Oh, well, it's an apron, it's compass and a square because he's a Mason. Now, I want you to read everything you see. Now, make sure the children hear it. Now, I'm in the audience, I'm one of the children, because I'm disinterested, I'm playing around, right? So you got to bring my attention. So you tell everybody, all right, stop playing, listen. Go ahead, teach. Go ahead.
Letter from George Washington to Muhammad ibn Abdullah.
Read with authority. You're the teacher. Now, I'm gonna give you a lesson. Because you're a little bit shy. Don't be shy because you're with family. Right? Right?
Yes. 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 We're all your family.
We all
We're all your family.
You're going to teach the baby. This is a grand opportunity.
You got a beautiful smile.
Keep this in mind. In law, back to the culture. This is the particular time that particularly women should be distinctly taught. Even if you were not producing a body, you're still producing forms when you cycle by the moon.
Okay.
When you teach within. And when that child comes here, that child will be educated. Think that way. All right? 3 on 3. 3 times 3 is 9. Think on 3. All right? All right, now, read with authority, mother. Use your ankh. Go ahead.
Letter from George Washington to Muhammad ibn Abdullah.
Sultan.
Sultan of Morocco, City of New Jersey, December 1st, 1789. Great and
Magnanimous.
magnanimous friend. Since the date of the letter which the late Congress by their president addressed to your Imperial Majesty, the United States of America has thought proper to change their government and institute a new one, agreeable to the Constitution of which I have the honor herewith to enclose a copy.
Continue. Now, as you can see with the first paragraph, in the first sentence, he already tells you about the late Congress and the late president. Immediately, with his own words, you can see he wasn't the first president. So you can already see that our people have been miseducated. You see how simple that is? This is what everybody else knows about the history here that our people don't know. Persons who are held as Negroes, blacks, and coloreds are not afforded this information because they're considered property, no different than a cow. Their mistreatment is because they're held outside of the constitutional fold of government, held as property and not as human beings, and treated accordingly. Therefore, this information is not afforded to them because they are servants to the occupying Europeans who have been pretending to be Americans. They are not. Are we clear? Yes. This is your history, and you're standing on your own land. Look at the cover. Do you recognize that? Now, so she doesn't even recognize her own birthright. You see the point? This is the disadvantage that our people have. Are we clear? You ever read the United States Constitution, the Republic Constitution? Article 6? Now, the Constitution is what? The supreme law of the land, right? All right, Constitution, the supreme law of the land. Now, I'm going to repeat this to you, and tell me what is your consideration. All debts contracted and entered into before the adoption of this Constitution shall be binding against the United States under this Constitution as under the Confederation. And all treaties made or which shall be made in pursuance thereof shall be the supreme law of the land. And the judges of every state shall be bound thereby, and any laws of any state to the contrary notwithstanding. And that's the first part. Then we talk about the representatives, all the representatives, legislator, etc., right, are bound, right? Now, do you understand that the treaty and the Constitution are one document and the supreme law of the land? So are you aware of the treaty that you have in your hand? Now you see the disadvantage that we have? Do you understand what I'm saying to you? And this is back, sis, to what nationality is. To retie you politically to your estate, because we've been disconnected and therefore have been forced into a status that we don't belong, and we've been consistently injured by European occupiers that we have confused as Americans. When we're the Americans, they're the foreigners. Do you understand? And a lot of the injury, the poverty, the economic suppression comes from our lack of knowing this, because we're listed as being incompetent. And therefore wards of the state and all estates go to the estate, and therefore our families never develop what you call loosely old money, because they're not allowed to gain anything. And this is why they can come in our communities and do gentrification. You know, our people spend all their life so-called thinking they're buying a house, they're listed as a tenant because they can't read. Then they come in and take the houses and do prime beef loans to us, and then come back and take the houses because they know our people can't read. Do you understand what's happening? So this is to inform you, to give you some concepts. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to read this, I'm going to read this with authority. And in the future, that's what you're going to do. You don't read shy. You know what I mean? Look me in the eye. Because you're going to have to move here. And that baby got to come to some civilized society. So what we got to do is make sure when that child comes here, that child has some protection.
That's right.
Just like you must have some.
That's right. That's right.
Put your chin up.
That's
Because
right.
you're beautiful.
Yes.
You understand? And think that way. When that baby comes, that baby's coming educated, all right? Now I'm going to read this thoroughly, then we're going to go over this a little bit. I want you to pay attention to the details, all right? Because in the future, we'll make sure you have a copy of this, all right? All right. Give sister a hand for help.
Yeah.
You're going to produce some real children for real in the future, so don't think that you're going to get away with this. All right, thank you, sis. All right. Now, I want you to pay attention to this. I want you to pay attention to this because you've already had this, and keep in mind that you're national before she was even born. Now she's bringing new family here, and you can see how the generations are injured for a lack of knowledge. Do you understand? So I'm going to read this, and I'll pay attention to every detail, and feel free to critique this, analyze this, all right? This is from the documents of American history. This is for anybody that wants to do some cross-reference or research, right? Talk about fingerprints.
Let me wash your glasses off.
Anyway. From documents of American history. This is a letter from George Washington, the 9th president. Did you know that? The 9th president. Tell the baby. To Muhammad ibn Abdullah, Sultan of Morocco, City of New York, December the 1st, 1789. Grade school, civics. When was George Washington appointed to the palace? What is the date? Now keep this in mind, we're all adults here, right? Because y'all gotta teach children. So if y'all don't know, what chance do the next generations have? See the problem that we're in? We don't even know the basic history of the now, but yet we talk about Jesus, God, Allah, and Muhammad. And when God's gonna kick the devil's butt on Thursday, be there at Fifth and Market, and all that kind of stuff. See our problem? Talk about Ma and Hotep and everything. Don't even know the fundamental rules of where we live, where we domicile, put it that way, because you live in your body. Get the point? We're at a distinct disadvantage compared to others, and the reason why we can't compete because we're miseducated. Do you understand? And a lot of times our people get Afrocentric and think that that makes them educated. It does not. That means it's data. If it cannot be properly categorized, it's data, and it remains data. We want to take it above that stage so that we can function with the information. Do you understand? This is, again, why we're here, why we're doing what we're doing. So we're telling you why we're doing what we're doing. You know, it's not going to blindside you or have you assume. We're telling you why we're doing what we're doing, because we need to correct some things to make our people functional. Because what's happening, thank you, sis. What's happening is that we're educated illiterates. That's what's happening with our people. And it's unfortunate, and we have to correct it. Of course, we've got to get past egos and stuff like that too, and really deal with what's really going on. Because we're being injured by the day unnecessarily. You understand? So I'm going to read the letter in entirety. Take notes, if you will. Critique it, and then we're going to break it down a little bit to show you things, and I'm going to make points on our earlier discussion. All right, so absorb this, teach the baby, make sure that baby comes out and is an administrator, not looking for some jewel.
You want me to move the cord? I can move the cord over here.
This is fine.
All right.
It's fine. Letter from George Washington to Muhammad ibn Abdullah, Sultan of Morocco, City of New York, December the 1st, 1789. So this is December at the time that this letter was drafted by George Washington, sent to the Sultan of Morocco, City of New York. He has been in office since April the 30th. So as you can understand, he's been in office for a matter of months. Are we clear? At the time of this writing. Great and magnanimous friends, since the date of the letter, which the late Congress, by their president, addressed to your Imperial Majesty, the United States of America have thought proper to change their government and institute a new one agreeable to the Constitution, of which I have the honor herewith to enclose a copy. The time necessarily employed in the arduous task and the disarrangements occasioned by so great, though peaceable, a revolution will apologize and account for your Majesty's not having received those regularly advised marks of attention from the United States which the friendship and magnanimity of your conduct toward them afforded reason to expect. The United States having unanimously appointed me to supreme executive authority in this nation, your Majesty's letter of August the 17th, 1788, which by reason of the dissolution of the late government remained unanswered, has been delivered to me, and I have also received the letters which your Imperial Majesty has been so kind as to write in favor of the United States to the Bashars of Tunis and Tripoli, and I present to you the sincere acknowledgments and thanks of the United States for this important mark of your friendship for them. Pay attention to these next paragraphs. We greatly regret the hostile disposition of those regencies toward this nation who have never injured them is not to be removed on terms of our power to comply with. Within our territories there are no mines, whether of gold or silver, and this young nation, just recovering from the waste and dissolution of a long war, have not as yet had time to acquire riches by agriculture and commerce, but our soil is bountiful and our people industrious, and we have reason to flatter ourselves that we shall gradually become useful to our friends. The encouragement with which your Majesty has been pleased generously to give to our commerce with your dominions, the punctuality with which you have caused the treaty with us to be observed, and the just and generous measures taken in the case of Captain Proctor make a deep impression on the United States and confirm their respect for and attachment to your Imperial Majesty. It gives me great pleasure to have the opportunity of assuring your Majesty that while I remain at the head of this nation,
I shall not cease to promote every measure that may conduce to the friendship and harmony which so happily subsists between your empire and them, and shall esteem myself happy in every occasion of convincing your majesty of the high sense which in common with the whole nation I entertain the magnanimity, wisdom, and benevolence of your majesty. May the Almighty bless your imperial majesty, our great and magnanimous friend, with his constant guidance and protection, signed George Washington. That letter reveals so much history and so much politics, but if you don't know history and law, it'll go like this. What do you recognize in this letter? Go ahead, the floor is open. Particularly concerned, contrary to what the average person out there, particularly amongst us, think about this, both this nation and about the politics here. What is it that this letter exposes?
Is he apologizing?
Say it again.
Like apologizing?
Yeah, talk a little louder.
I said, but it sounded like he was kind of like apologizing.
Yeah, because they couldn't keep up the taxes, yes. What else?
And he clearly realized that.
No, what is exposed is, yeah, let's cut through the chase. What is exposed is that this land is Morocco. They couldn't keep up with the taxes. The United States is an appendage of the Moorish Empire. What has happened in history that's got our people confused? They've been overthrown and branded Negro, Black, and Color, and Indians, and they ain't figured this stuff out yet. Think they came from someplace else in their home. They're part and parcel of this said government, don't even know it. Therefore, they don't know that the state and the wealth here is really theirs. And they're poor, going through all kinds of sufferings for nothing because they don't know themselves. And then those who get national don't even know how to entertain what it is because their concepts about what it is wrong. Therefore, we're incompetent in doing all kinds of suffering and looking for all kind of Hotep stuff to try to solve the problem mentally, and we ain't solving nothing politically. You get the point? Makes us subject to the Negro codes because we're not outside of them. Status, because it must be known, because you can't serve two masters. Do you understand? Now, of course, being fair, because our attention spans are limited, and most of the time when things are read, we obtain or we retain some of it, but for the most part, it pretty much goes past us. We're hearing and it goes past us. If you broke this down, you could see more than what I just told you, but that much is quite evident. I'm going to read paragraph, say 5 again. Now pay attention to this again. The 4th, yeah. Let me see what paragraph I would call that. Yeah, 5. The encouragement with which your majesty has been pleased generously to give to our commerce with your dominions. So how many people, Asiatics here, don't know that these dominions are the Moorish Empire? You didn't know that? Now you do. So that gives you a little bit more insight of what nationality is. And because it's a consciousness, because you must be reconnected to your estate to even know that you have one. So what happens if our people don't know they're Moorish and they call themselves black? Don't think it's an identity, not knowing it's a brand. They've abandoned their birthright. For lack of knowledge.
They're thinking Africa and here is 2 different places.
Yes, and this is Northwest Africa.
This is
Northwest Africa.
right.
You understand what I'm saying to you?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead. Make it loud so that everybody
okay,
can.
I'm sorry. Maybe I might need, because a lot of times, you was talking.
Yeah, just be direct.
Talking about scriptures, and the scripture that come to mind is the story of the 2 brothers,
Esau and Yaqub. The
Yeah.
25th chapter of the book of Genesis. Yeah, with the theft of the birthright. And he sold the birthright for a bowl of red pottage. And they're also telling you that in the Wizard of Oz, where the tribe of Judah, the lion, symbol of Judah, ain't got no heart. And then you got the straw man, which was created in 1868 with the 14th Amendment that created the straw man, the corpse. That's the corpse. And then it give it the legal definition of person, then classified persons called Negro, Black, and Colored, and then cribbed all the industry, tin man. You see? Then the Yellow Brick Road, the Zodiac Constitution right in the courtyard, right there in City Hall. Law of the Moors. Then the Mummers Parade, which is a celebration of the fall of the Moors. And then the people around don't even know what they're looking at. Except people who are Masons or Europeans, but the Asiatics don't even know what they're looking at. Celebration of their own fall. And they get dressed, with all that big parade, right? They assemble at 6 and Moore Street. They even do it symbolically. You know what I mean? And so the deal with it is, logically, if you don't know the history, all of this stuff, it happens every day and it goes whoosh. And the people see no relationship because they're not connected. They're mentally disassociated. They're just living, they're just working, they're just workers. They don't know their cattle. And they're treated accordingly. Of course, because we have pride, they give you dogma to hide behind. And the dogma is counterfeit religion. And so most people think, they hide behind their beliefs and think that they got this salvation that doesn't exist. While their families are falling apart and the babies are dying younger and younger on the streets. And, we're hypocrites, but because so many people are doing it, we feel comfortable with our hypocrisy. As soon as somebody get together and start talking Afrocentricity, it gives us a sense of security. It's a sense of security, not a reality of security. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Because when you go out into the real world, there has no function. It's not good, brother.
Peace.
And this is back to the advantage that you have that was not recognized. Do you understand? See, because this, essentially you should have been already exercising this from as soon as this stuff started. And without even this, it should have come right from here. Come right from your heart. Because you're supposed to know yourself. And when they see that you don't, might treat you even worse. Because they have more contempt for somebody that has it and don't use it than they have for somebody that know nothing at all. Not all the time, but very often. And then the other, because it's such a threat, they're going to make sure that you don't entertain, because Susie ain't going to college if you start exercising your right. It's not, because I'll tell you already, somebody's paying their mortgage off what they're stealing from you. They are. In case you didn't know that. Speak loud so we can hear.
The mummers. What's the mummer?
Mum? You say mum. Mum is a word. What does it mean? Silence. Mockery. All right. Now, up until the good administration, they used to do the mummers parade in what they call blackface. Now, they may not remember because they're young, but they used to, put coal on their face, coal oil, and they used to march into good administration. But see, Mayor Good was also a secretary in the Moorish Science Temple. He knew the history. And after about 85, somewhere around there, they stopped doing it. And so, unless people have a background in history, a lot of the youth forget it. Like you're all being young, you lose reference points. But the elders, we have that memory. We know what it is. Although a lot of them don't know why, unless they're scholars, they know they did. Let me present this to you. Can you come up for a minute? I didn't bring no bags and stuff, but the interesting thing on the way out, I just grabbed this. We'll show you how things, just fall right in place.
Right, right.
Yeah, isn't that interesting?
Yes. It's divine.
Now, read that. And I want you to see this. I want you to see this. So y'all, remember you got protector or shit like that. Do you know the rules? Applied science is this. When a woman was a child, you protect her more than ever. Don't keep everybody, any confusion from around them. Right? What's your sign? What's your sign? What constellation did your mother bring you here under? Taurus. Oh, you pretty good money, huh? Anyway. But seriously, so what you want to do, you want to calculate when you conceive. You know your cycle, right? Because you cycle 13 times a year, you know your cycle. Measure your cycle, measure what you are. Put them together, do a chart reading, and then educate your child in the womb according to the cycle when she's coming out. And she'll be educated. All right. Now, this particularly is General Assembly of Pennsylvania's file of the House of Representatives. This was issued, this was around 1933. And keep this in mind, this is really interesting too, Delilah, because for those of you who are aware of House Joint Resolution 192, how many are aware of House Joint Resolution 192 with the dissolution of the seats of government? I know that you are. Raise your hand. Anyway. Well, if you'll notice, now keep that in mind, that was June the 5th, 1933 with the House Joint Resolution. And you'll notice this is April 17th, 1933, right? Now this is 1933, House Joint Resolution, and you'll give this back to me. Now after you read, I want you to take it and share with them so they let them see it anyway. And I want you to read with the same authority. Remember the children are back there at the other, and you get in front of the camera and, you know, read.
Moorish American Society of Philadelphia.
No, read everything at the House Joint Resolution. The resolution.
Resolution number 75. Mr. Whitman in place April 17th, 1933. Moorish American Society of Philadelphia and the use of their names. Many sons and daughters that are proud and handsome race which inspired the architecture of Northern Africa and carried into Spain the influence of his artistic temperament have become citizens of this nation. In the city of Philadelphia, there exists a Moorish American society made up of Moors who have found here the end of their quest for a home of the children of those who journeyed here from the plains of Morocco. This society has done much to bring about and thorough absorption by these people of those principles which are necessary to make them good American citizens. These Moorish Americans have since being here missed the use of the titles and name annexations that were so familiar at home and which were used in accordance with the doctrines of the religious faith to which they are adherents. Therefore, be it resolved that this House commends the Moorish American Society of Philadelphia for the efficient service it has rendered the nation in bringing about a speedy, thorough Americanization of these former Moors, that in ordinance with the fullest rights of religious and independence, guarantee every citizen we recognize also the right of these people to use the name, affixes El, Ali, or Bey, or any other prefix or suffix to which they have heretofore been accustomed to use, or which they may hereafter require the right to use. On the question, will the House adopt the resolution? It was adopted.
Now, as you can see, before anybody in this room, you know, even though it's already known, as you can see, it's already established in the journals of the records of the House of Representatives, right in Philadelphia, right where they took your birthright. Now, logically, people should know this, shouldn't they? But you also know that many people don't. Do you understand? And so a lot of times when people begin to hear this information and begin to gravitate to it, if they're not told that this is actually a social political forum, they have a tendency to think it's a belief system, which makes them incompetent. And then many people who may teach this information will teach it from that perspective. If it's some belief system that you got to go to a temple and worship type thing, is a misconception. Doesn't mean that, I mean, if that's what you need to do, you can do that too, but that has nothing to do with the birthright. This is a bloodline birthright. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? And then if you don't know that logically, you have a tendency not to approach it accordingly and have the body of information, which is law, jurisprudence, to accommodate your activities every day in all your political and social affairs. Your failure to do so logically misclassifies you, which is what they did. They misclassified you. Not totally accidental. It's on two fronts. One, because economically it's to their disadvantage, I mean to your disadvantage and to their advantage, because every time they classify you as Negro, Black, and colored, that allows them as a FOFOR trustee to freely go into the Sister Q trust that is created with the all capital letters, or the straw man that was created under the 14th Amendment. Thus the corpse is created to slay the living. And this is how they cause injury to the living. Now, and so this is when we first started talking, and I said to you, you know, to give a synopsis, you know, deposition of the situation. And you said, the VA, and then you started talking, and I stopped you and said, the VA can't do anything to you. It's a corpse. Corporation comes from corpse. Corporations were created in 1868 via the 14th Amendment. Now you understand why Drawley say the 14th Amendment is not necessary for the salvation of my people and citizens. However, if you don't know from a law perspective, you don't see the damage, which is what makes you blind at this point. You know, and so that, them recognizing that you're not seeing that, and you're more, and you're saying it, and then you're not following it up, they'd like say, the door is off that safe. And this, you know, and now you're trying to figure out how to deal with this thing when you don't know how to approach it. You see the point? So some of these things is to give you some consciousness of your approach, because meaning that once you begin to understand the actuality of the politics, the protocols are like self-evident. Although you still going to use a little bit of studying, the protocols are evident because you're conscious of your position. You got to be, if you're on the chessboard, you got to know what your position is. You can't just make moves and not know what your position is. Now you're beginning to see the position. Well, thank you, sis. Share that with them for a minute. And then if we had copy machines, we'd copy that and give it to you. But that's the only copy I have right now. Now, the other deal, so if like we're here and we're a small body. Now, I know that some of you have been studying for a while already know this. But as a rule, with these adults not even knowing these basics, if you don't recognize the disadvantage that you have compared to other people, then we're even in worse trouble. But you need to recognize the disadvantage, because everybody may be -1 or something like that should have raised their hand, because these are basic 3rd grade civics. But it's only preserved for Europeans. That's why they used to keep separate schools, so that they would be educated and our people would not. So logically, we would be at a disadvantage. So in the real world of things, our people, out of frustration, would start getting Afrocentric to try to mentally get out of the jurisdiction while not understanding jurisdiction. Because the knowledge of jurisdiction must be specific. It must be absolutely known. It cannot be assumed. You cannot do things with the assumption that you're stepping outside their jurisdiction. Because if you're not in your proper person, you're in their jurisdiction. If you're transacting business in their name, you're in their jurisdiction. And property can't own property. See where estate and status come together? You see. So I wanted you to see that, to recognize its value. Also, I want you to, now, how many of you know what color means in law? Raise your hand. You're always going to raise your hand. Raise it anyway. Raise it anyway. All right. Now, good brother, can you come up for a second? Now, you know that our people, according to their training, generally think that they're people of color. They always say that. They say it with a sense of pride, don't they? All right. Now, again, we have to dismiss or remove a lot of things from our language because culture is in a language. And language is designed for us to confess a status, with us thinking that we're saying something different. And when you confess in your language to certain statuses, codes come into play, and your very conversation is the agreement and don't know it. And so therefore, our people must be aware of those things so that we can begin to fix it. All right? Now, there's color. Now, you might introduce yourself and then read it. And remember, we got the children in the back, so make sure they can hear you.
My abolition, the Ruth Clinton L. Bay.
A little louder.
Islam.
Islam. A little louder.
An appearance.
No, read it. Color.
Oh, color. An appearance, semblance, or simulacrum as distinguished from that which is real.
Read it again.
An appearance.
Color.
Color. An appearance, semblance, or simulacrum as distinguished from that which is real. A prima facie or apparent right. Hence a deceptive appearance, a plausible assumed exterior, concealing a lack of reality, a disguise or pretext.
Now, so when our people are trained by their marching leader guys that we're people of color, and they use it as a term of endearment when they already know that it's a legal term that actually puts our people in a subjugated position. But if you're not national, you won't have that information, and you use it loosely because everybody's saying it, not knowing that you're agreeing to the Christian Black Codes of 1724. And then, of course, when they enforce them, we'd be sitting around talking about they racist, doing a double standard of law, and we're agreeing to be something that we're not, therefore it does apply. Because anybody that's in dishonor of their mothers and fathers are listed as people of color. Fake people, that's what it means. Distinguished from that which is real. So the people that are not real people have rights of real human beings. So if somebody want to sell you a pit bull, and then we're going to come right and we say, yeah, well, you only need a pit bull in the yard. And so somebody come in and pull pit bull, we wait and say, oh, here comes the brother with the pit bull. And everybody starts moving all the way over here because he's coming in with a lion on a chain. You know, then that's a false position, isn't it? In law, that would be a colored action. You see? And so when our people go around talking about they're Negro, Black, and colored, in law, they are listed as colored because they're fronting, which means because the statement is false, because they're social brand tags. They're not really part of the human family. You see? And that would be classified as color. And our people would think it would mean some Afrocentricity. That's the way they're trained. You see the point? But their agreement would bring in the Christian Black codes. And of course, those codes kind of create a lot of mistreatment, doesn't it? So again, it's important for us to be aware of these things so that we can understand why we're nationalized. And this is back basically the theme. Why is it that we're doing what we're doing? Now, of course, most of you already know, but for those who don't know, and to empower yourself in your relationship, even if, like say, you're going to deal with a barrister and they're going to deal pro bono, then you're supposed to take over and tell them what to do since it's the process of them dealing with your estate. Or either you claim power of attorney over your own estate and you take it from there. Because that's what's happening. You need to know what's happening in order to know what to say. Because if you don't know what's happening, you're going to let him speak for you. It's not going to be in your interest. It may sound like it ain't going to be in your interest. All right? Do you understand what that means? All right, which is very good. So you're going to make sure that baby understands that also. All right. Thank you, good brother. Get a brother hand.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go from color to color. Brother, can you read color?
Me?
Yes. Sound. Color. And you can leave the law case out. Leave the law case out, just deal with the substance of the dispensation.
Okay, this is what you're talking about. Go past this or?
Well, I mean, it goes to law, read everything, you can skip the law
Skip
case.
the law case, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I mean, you can put it in there, but, you know,
All right.
so it's not distracting. All right?
Colored by common usage in America. This term and such phrases as colored persons, the colored race, colored men, and the like is used to designate Negroes or persons of the African race, including all persons of mixed blood descended from Negro ancestry. But where a state constitution provided for separate schools for the white and colored races, the term white race was held to be limited to the Caucasian race, and the term colored races to embrace all other races. It has also been held that there is no legal, technical signification to the phrase colored person, which the courts are bound judicially to know.
So they're letting you know it's a fraud, aren't they? And they're letting you know it's not an identity, it's a term. Social engineering. So what occurs when you have so-called groups amongst the Asiatics that going around pumping amongst their own people that they're people of color? They don't know that they're taking them right into the black codes, do they? But the leader guys know that. That's why, because they got the titles. So as you can see, why sometimes when a European get frustrated with our people and he says, why don't you stop messing with us, why don't you go to your Negro leaders that keep selling you into slavery? However, if you don't know, if you can't read, if you don't know law and jurisprudence, you don't know that they're doing this because you don't know that culture is in the language. See the danger of a lack of education with our people? Because they don't know that the culture is in the language, and they're using these terms loosely with endearment, not knowing that they're agreement to the black codes.
So in a sense, from
In fact, yeah.
From the language that I understand, especially dealing with brothers who call themselves the Black Asiatic, and they're actually taking the position of a 10% as opposed to 5%.
And now they're actually themselves in their language agreeing to be the servants of the Europeans while implying that they're dealing with a sovereign right of Afrocentricity when the status is absolutely the opposite by their own tongue. But they won't release that because they think they're doing some kind of a powerful statement on behalf of their people, and they're actually doing the job of an overseer.
Gotcha.
And they're usually too arrogant to admit that they're wrong, even after showing the facts, which is why most people have frustrations with us and always, look at us as sellouts. Do you understand what I'm saying? And then we get emotional with the causes and the effects of, things in society and confuse that with the facts. You don't mix the facts with your emotions. Emotion ain't got a daggone thing to do with it. Those are the facts. So what happens when our people keep calling themselves people of color? There's no legal technical signification to the term. Meaning that scientifically it's a fiction. And so the courts don't even have an obligation to even recognize you. See the issue? They don't have any obligation, that's why they got you in the arbitration. They don't have no obligation. Matter of fact, you want to talk about something that to your benefit, they don't even have to hear it. They ain't even considering it. Because you're classified as a Negro. Because the state automatically has jurisdiction. You see the whole point? In propria persona. And these are subtleties that it matters not, what so-called body of learning that we may be in. This is the responsibility of all the people across the board, not based on what religion they think they know and all this. That's across the board. These principles are universal. And so if our people are lacking this information, logically they're going to move out there with passion because we have injuries, we have things that we need to fix in our community. And then they go out with their own language and walk right back into the jurisdiction, don't even know that they're walking right through the jurisdiction. Which makes it really seriously that they're incompetent. Now, if you're national, you're supposed to already know this, and this is where people are national, where administrators have not done their job, because if you're national, you're supposed to already know this. It's not even supposed to be, you know, it's sort of like, if you have, you know, like the baby, when baby come, right? Say the baby about a year and a half, and she or he is playing around the floor with little blocks, and the baby starts trying to say the little letters, and the baby says A, B, T, and then everybody wants to clap, and we're all impressed. But if an adult does that, you're not impressed. It's the same thing. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Our people are operating on a child level, you know, like boys and girls, but they want the benefits of adults and the estate. And then they're disallowed, and then they call them the civilized world racism because they don't know that the race is the human species, which makes them even more incompetent. Then they keep buying and selling with the European names and think they can own property, and they can't figure that out. A child should be able to figure that out. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? All of these little things, you know, and so this is where, these are areas where our injuries occur every day that we march and pray about. We're not talking about even the bigger things. We're talking about the subtle, everyday things, how they legally and lawfully occur, because we keep agreeing to it and don't know we're agreeing. But we agree because we don't know better. But then we are comfortable in our ignorance.
Yep.
And get defensive of our ignorance because it's from some group that we in. And we identify with groups. Civilized people identify with their nationality, not with
Your
groups.
status.
You know, Chinese don't run around talking about, yeah, well, I'm Sony. Yeah, that's cool, but you're not Sony. You know, and our people, yeah, I'm the nation. I'm this, I'm that. I'm the temple. I'm the club, I'm the mosque. I'm the 5%ers. Well, those are organizations, yeah, but that's not where your sovereign right is secure. It's the Moorish nation. Did you know that? Who's that? See, that's the problem. Do you understand? And it's not unlike us having a difficulty. Say if you're all sitting here, you're Manchurian, right? And have you calling yourself light-skinned, dark, yellow people, another calling them dark-skinned, yellow people, and somebody's trying to school them. You're not crayons, you're Chinese, and you're going through hours and hours trying to convince them that it's not a belief system. And stop talking about it from a third. It's the same problem we have with our people that call themselves black, Negro, color, and you're trying to tell them that they're Moors. Because they don't understand. And so in law, anyone who calls themselves other than that is listed as an incompetent in a state board. And so boards of the state never receive an estate because the state takes everything. And they don't have to account for the profits. Look at wardship, W-A-R-D-S-H-I-P, and read that and take in consideration the category, the legal category of minor, minority, etc., and the fundamentals of contract law. Also take this in consideration in the matters that we were talking about earlier in relationship to the operatives doing business as the VA in their operations, also with the discovery that we discussed. Go ahead.
Start with wardship, right?
Wardship.
Wardship, okay. Wardship. In military tenures, the right of the Lord to have custody as guardian of the body and lands of the infant heir, without any account of profits, until he was 21 or she 16. In Sokich, the guardian was accountable for profits, and he was not the Lord, but the nearest relative to whom the inheritance could not descend.
Now stop right there. So as you can see, if you're thinking, you can see why they've been socially applying the category of minority. Because as minority, it wouldn't have mattered if the females become 16 and the males 21, they would be non-inheritable. because the issue is heritability. And so if you have a people that don't even know they have an estate, and when you're discussing estate, they're not aware of what you're even talking about, they're not inheritable. Therefore, they're wards of the state. The status is wardship, which you're seeing right there. Now, you understand? Yes. So we have to correct that, don't we?
Yes.
And so if the natural people aren't even aware of this, they're going to operate in their everyday affairs, not aware that this stuff goes on every day in everything that they do. And so if it's ignored because they lack knowledge, it's abandonment, isn't it? And even though the Europeans know that our people have been miseducated because they've been controlling the education system, they're treating them as if they're supposed to know, when in fact, ignorance of the law is no excuse. So they're treating them like they should know, so therefore they're accepting it as a contract.
Yes.
And this is how it's bureaucratized. You see the point?
Yes.
Now, if you discuss this with most people, many of our people, and you just share the information with them, if it wasn't in the book, which most of them won't read anyway, they'll think it's your opinion.
Yes.
And start telling you what their school of thought is. Well, I'm Baptist, and then start telling you about their beliefs and all that, and you can't pull them off of it either. And so the status continues, doesn't it?
Yes.
So our people we have to find ways of dispensing this information without our people being threatened by their beliefs, because they always get defensive based on their belief systems, and this is why it's difficult to get them out of the situations they're in. And so the Europeans just constantly, every day, auctions them off, and they don't even know that there's no legal courts. Those are auction blocks. You see the problem? And so we have to bring the people to a level to be capable and competent to present themselves, lest they be represented by another man. And there's your barristers. See the point?
Yes.
All right. And if you have any other comments that you want to make on that, what you see in it, go ahead and feel free to make it.
Military tenures, the right of the Lord to have custody. So now I'm interested now in who is the Lord.
So now we're talking jurisdiction, aren't we? So now you understand when you see the stars and stripes and you see that gold fringe around it, it's under military operations, isn't it? So they're operating under war powers, aren't they?
Yes.
So they're dealing with booty and prize, aren't they?
Yes.
Now you're dealing back with 192, Resolution House Joint Resolution 192. And so you need to be aware of what's going on in order to be cognizant to do something other than just sitting passively by. So if you're not aware of 192, which we just all mentioned, and very few people raise their hand, now you see how one injury sends us to another, and you see what information has to be presented to these people so they can begin to have a fight. Other than that, they don't even have a fight and don't even know they don't have a fight. This is where our problem is. It's back to our initial conversation. And it shows you how this covers everything that concerns our lives economically, but yet our people not being aware, unless you make them see it, they don't even know it's going on. And this is where the blind comes from. This is where, even when they have our people marching around, this is where you get the term the blind leading the blind, because they're not addressing what's really wrong. And so the problem keeps getting passed down to the next generation because they're not dealing with the root of the problem. They're dealing with symptoms, complaining and marching and praying on it. And they are the prey. They don't know the difference between P-R-E-Y and P-R-A-Y. They don't know the difference between prophet and prophet. They don't know the difference between person and person. This is where our problems are. And those are just preliminaries. And thus, the corpse was created to slay the living. That's the 14th Amendment. You see? And that's what's happening. And so, so that we can begin to actually fix it, not just have a discussion, you have to have a background in jurisprudence, because law and history goes together. That's why Raleigh said to the Moorish that study well. And when you would have studied well, would ask me what to study next, I would reply, study yourselves. And what happens is that people become parrots, repeating these statements without taking the statements and building on them or growing with them, you see. This is growing with it, you see. And so you have to take people to law so they can begin to do what? Correct their language, because culture is in the language, and they don't know that they have not been trained in etymology, because etymology is not taught to people who are held to servitude. So you need etymology to learn how to read documents, because all of them are constructed by symboliographers. You see? So one of the keys of helping our people to properly read is to make sure that they have their tools. One of them being what? A law dictionary, amongst others. And so you can see that the effect that affects us across the board. And yet some people, some of our own people, if you presented them like, say, come to class today, most of them, because they come to different schools, think this stuff doesn't apply to them. And it absolutely does. You know, somebody, oh, Methodists, I ain't with me, or I'm 5%er, we already got it, type thing. You know, they think they do. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? And it applies to everybody. And this is our disadvantage. And again, when you begin to do the detailed research and cross-research and critical analysis, and begin to understand what Drew Ali actually did as a lawman, you recognize that most of the temples are being misrepresented by the administrators, not by what's supposed to be there. The administrations have been, so they're like as neutered as many people on the street that hadn't been afforded this information, because they thought they got it as soon as they was nationalized. And guess what? It's more to the cake. Might look good with the icing, but if it ain't bite right, when you bite it, you know, it may not be what you think. You see the point? I want you to look at civil liter mortuus. Civil liter mortuus. CIVILITERMORTUS. 2 words. Civil liter mortuus.
Sorry, spell it again.
Say that.
You spell it again.
CIVIL, civil, just like civil, liter, as one word, civil liter, mortuus, MORTUUS. Now, that's the status of persons that are called Negro, Black, and Colored. And as you already know, and I don't think we have to emphasize so much, with a lot of our organizations, it's typical with them marching around, praying all the time, talking about civil rights, right? Correct? Now, while there are many organizations and people who promote that mentality and those activities, one of the interesting things that you'll recognize is that while a lot of finance is raised amongst these organizations, marching and praying and donations and giving awards to all these civil rights leader guys, these people are never told what their legal status is that they're marching about. This is the status that they're in, which again shows you that the leadership is both incompetent and sellouts. However, if you don't know law, you wouldn't recognize it, because you think the emotional speeches they make constitutes honor. When actually they got the people on a social treadmill. Their job is keep them busy, doing nothing, thinking they're doing something, meaning burning their energy. It's like running a car full speed with it in neutral. You'll use up the gas, but you ain't going nowhere. Now read civil liter mortuus.
This is a slave right here. Civilly dead, dead in view of the law. The condition of one who has lost his civil rights and capacities and is accounted dead in law.
Now that's where your branch, Negro, Black, and Color, serve to kill you in law. Thus the corpse created to slay the living. That's what the Fourth Amendment does, creates the artificial Negro. And all you need were leaders to get these people to agree to be people of color, and the job is done. It is that simple from a legal process. However, on the surface, with an uneducated person, it would never be suspected, would it? Now read in full life. I-N, one word, full, F-U-L-L, L-I-F-E, and read that in full life. Now, these, we're presenting this to clear up a lot of concepts. Some questions may be asked. Sometimes the people are getting this information, they won't answer the questions because they're embarrassed or they don't know what questions to ask. So these will cover up a lot of areas to bring people up to speed.
Can you
read it?
Yes, can you repeat that? How
In full life, there are 3 separate words.
Okay. I-N,
full life. It should be in your first column of the page, somewhere down, about the 3rd down page.
well, I got the closest I get to it is
No, you'll find it.
Fusion.
There it is.
Okay, all right, gotcha. In full life, continuing in both physical and civil existence. That is, neither actually dead nor civiliter mortuus.
So you can see in full life is the opposite of civiliter mortuus. Now, those are the statuses, and what's it showing the condition of the people, and then it shows the condition that they're seeking, the change that they're seeking. Now, so how many people that have been for generations marching in so-called civil rights organizations knew their status or even knew what they were seeking, which you just read? And how come the leaders didn't inform them? See, so now once you know law, you can tell who's selling the people out. Some people who you suspect are honorable. This is why people who come from other nations are disgusted with us. Because these things we should know. We're always doing stuff, don't know what the hell we're doing, and talking about our special personal relationship with God, Jesus, Allah, and all this stuff. And they're looking at us like we're out the damn lunch, and we'd be wondering why. Because we're always making claims that we have no backup on. Talking about I'm a carpenter, and somebody say, well, here's a saw. What's that? It's the same thing. It's, you know, you want civil rights and don't know the status of these people, civiliter mortuus, and that the status you seek is in full life with the rest of citizenry? When you raising all this finance, marching around, flying all around at the expense of these people, got tags in the windows, and then calling them colored people, which makes them artificial people, and you know that you're doing that. But they don't know because they're minors, minority, can't damn read. They just think they can. Meanwhile, these leader guys are 33-degree Masons, got a Moorish feds in secret. You get the whole point? Once you know these things, you're better able to begin to fix things because people can't fool you anymore. This is the advantage of being national, because when you become national, you start putting your childish things away. When you are minority, you know, you cherish your childish things. You don't have sense enough to give it to the babies. So you have adults, when in our community, they still in the middle of the floor playing blocks. And wonder why the world looks at us acting like we're out to lunch. Because we are. We just don't know it. And that's why they give our people dogma to hide behind. Dogma is counterfeit religion. The same way they give our people fiat and make them think they're getting paid. They don't know the difference. You see the point, brother?
Yes.
And so, it's another reason why, like even when sometimes when we're, you know, sharing with people, we'll have them read it so it becomes theirs, so they don't just think we're just talking out of our mouth, out the side of our mouth from opinion. Because they need to be educated, but they need to know they need to be educated, so they can get past the ego and be willing to dump what they thought was up, which ain't what's up. You see the point?
Yes.
All right. Think if I can think of something else that would be beneficial. Status. I want you to read minor and minority. Now keep in mind when you read minor and minority, keep in mind wardship, which you just read. And as you recognize everything that we're dealing with legal statuses, aren't we?
Yes.
Things that people deal with every day, but they need to be aware that they are. Not assuming, they need to be absolutely aware. Not to be aware is dangerous.
You see that as we pass some terms that I'm familiar with that's used, that I see is used very loosely, like ministry. Just ran across that,
Yeah.
so I'm taking note. What are we looking for again? Minority?
Minority. Now, you already know that our people just think or assume that it just means numbers, you know, but it doesn't. That's not limited to that. Now, because remember, when you're going with law, you're dealing with we're dealing with the denotation of what things actually mean, and not just merely what they're assumed to mean. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Minor, an infant or person who is under the age of legal competence.
Competence is important, isn't it?
Yes.
And legal competence is important, isn't it?
Yes.
So the implication is not just age, is it?
No.
Continue.
One under 21, a term derived from civil law, which described a person under a certain age as less than so many years. Minor, vingenti, quinique, anise, one less than 25 years of age. Also, less or less consideration, lower, a person of inferior condition.
So therefore, our people, we thinking it's a term of Afrocentricity and not knowing it's a legal status. You see the problem?
Yes.
And our very own language, we're agreeing to the status that we pretend we're arguing against. And so, as soon as you do that, they recognize you as being what? Incompetent. And then we get emotional, want to march and protest. Now we're in contempt. Then when they start kicking ass, now we want to talk racism. You see the problem? When we're out of order. But meanwhile, we want to talk about who God is, what Hotep is, who Ma'a is, and everything, and don't even know the rules of current events. But we're going to talk about the ancient gods of Egypt. We're full of crap. As a matter of fact, the very action is contemptuous. So how can I keep telling you about what's on the dark side of the moon, and what God and Allah and Hotep is going to do, and I don't even know the rules of the Constitution that govern the land? Come on. And it came from your own mothers and fathers, and we start thinking it came from the European. See what our problem is? Now I want you to look up free white persons. This is very important.
You want me to read minority first?
Oh, yes, but, or, go ahead, save it, mark it down. Go ahead.
Minority, the state or condition of a minor infancy.
Also, now we're not talking numbers, are we?
Nope.
But it's usually used with that concept, isn't it?
Yes.
So there's a legal status and condition. Remember status, that you read status? Remember? So all of these things should be part of your knowledge base, which means you shouldn't, for some who don't know it, well, we're making sure you have it, but for most Moors who are conscious, you're supposed to already know this with your nationality. Because your mind changes, so therefore your activity in society changes because your status is corrected. You see? So if your status is corrected, you're not supposed to be acting like that. And if you do it, then you agree to be back to that nigger category, and that's where they're going to put you. That's what the Christian Black Codes of 1724 is for. Persons that are outside the human family. And they're usually branded what? Negro, black, people of color. And they be thinking it's Afrocentricity.
And
See the problem?
Yeah, and even with what you just said, even just, with the little bit I think I do know, just the fact that they're classifying you outside of the human race.
Exactly.
And we not even understanding that that's impossible.
Right.
Because we are the human. So how can we be outside of ourselves?
Now, it's easy. How can you? Because you added the question. Because now you're making a moral argument, which does not constitute what's going on. The fact of the matter is the European going around saying that we Negro, black, and colors? Yes. Is our people agreeing to it? Yes. Therefore, it's a contract. So they did it. Because ignorance of the law is what? No excuse. You understand? If a Chinese walked through this door talking about where the light-skinned yellow guy's organization is, he just lost his birthright. If you don't understand that, tough cookies, because they're not going to have a conversation with them and argue with them that human beings aren't crayons. They're going to treat them accordingly. And that goes for anybody else, and we're no different. But we like to think that we're different. Well, guess what? The same rules. You go around calling human beings crayons, guess what? You're going in the box. It ain't fair. You're in the box. You know, it's racist. No, racist to species. And they're not going to sit and discuss it with you. They're just going to do it to you. It ain't fair. It's mistreating me. Well, I feel as though I know my rights. All right, read off the Constitution. I ain't read it yet. Don't talk about it. You see the whole point? We always talk about we know stuff and we don't know shit. Excuse my expression, not the language. And the world ain't got time for us and our bullshit. And they're not patient because they're living off of it. So what? They're not going to sit there and have this conversation and correct you. They're going to take advantage of you and they're going to promote the ignorance. It is the duty and the job of our people and those persons in our organizations to tell the truth and stop this BS and fix this problem. Because the information has been delivered to them over 100 years ago, including with the rights of indigenous people, with Obama signing the rights of indigenous people for these people to declare their nationality. And that information is dispensed to all churches, all civic groups, etc., and they have not done their job. Well, guess what? You're going to pay the price. Now, it's up to us to fix it or not, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Now, so read free white persons. Now, this is also, when you look at the annotation, there are certain things that are assumed in society, so it explains it, and then it goes into the fact of what it is, right? So read free white person, because you already know that our people think that Europeans are white people. But they don't know there's an assumption from the Albus genetics that's generally assumed, but that's only connotated. But it is a legal status and not a complexion. Now read.
Free white person. Referred to in Naturalization Act as amended by Act July 14, 1870, has meaning naturally given to it when first used in First Statute 103, C3, meaning all persons belonging to the European races then commonly counted as white, and their descent.
Excuse me, when you see that, so you can see with the Naturalization Act of 1870, that's when that came into vogue, and you can see it's a legal application of them calling themselves white people. Now continue to read.
And their descendants, including such descendants in other countries to which they have immigrated. It includes all European Jews, more or less, intermixed with peoples of Celtic, Scandinavian, Teutonic, Iberian, Latin, Greek, and Slavic descent. It includes Magyars, Lapps, and Finns, and the Basque and Albanians. It includes the mixed Latin, Celtic, Iberian, and Moorish inhabitants of Spain and Portugal, and the mixed Greek, Latin, Phoenician, and North African inhabitants of Sicily, the mixed Slav and Tartar inhabitants of South Russia. It does not mean Caucasian race.
Now read that again.
It does not mean Caucasian race.
Now read it again.
It does not mean Caucasian race.
Continue.
Aryan race. Aryan race or Indo-European races, nor the mixed Indo-European, Dravidian, Semitic, and Mongolian races who inhabited Persia. A Syrian of Asiatic birth and descent will not be entitled to become a naturalized citizen of the United States as being a free white person.
So now you can see, and then you got law cases to support it. So as you can see, as soon as our people call that European white man, we've just traded place with them. North Africans, Moors, people that are mixed with our blood are the white people. They're not white. Now, so what happens when our people start, well, look who just walked through the door of technical skills.
Skills in the building. All right.
Technically speaking.
Technically speaking.
Islam says.
Islam.
So as you can see, when our people are using these terms black and white loosely in their conversations about rights, they don't even know that they themselves are casting themselves in the lowest status when they're really the white people. Now you understand the movie Trading Places? They can tell you right to your face. They're telling you right to your face. It's just that it goes like this with our people. It's just a movie. You see the point? Now you see for yourself. So again, go ahead, sis.
I was listening to what he said, and I had asked a question amongst ourselves. I asked them, well, basically, if a white person came and tried to claim nationality, would they be denied?
No.
Well,
No. See, now, the statement that you made, if the person's white, they already have a nationality.
So what if it, and I asked her, like, what was
No,
that
no,
black
listen,
and
listen.
half white person?
The question's valid, but it's based on the pre-assumptions that we're correcting. Because you're assuming that the Europeans are white people. They took that title on in the 1870s on the Ku Klux Klan Act, meaning that they're not white people, they're Europeans. White is a status, because as soon as they're white and you claim them white, you just call them sovereign, in case you didn't know that.
So European.
This is why you're giving this information.
So what if someone was European?
Yeah, Europeans.
And black.
Now, black is European property. That's how you can tell European property. Like say for instance, all right, you're all sitting together, you're all family, right? And we went down the line. I said, what's your nationality? What's your nationality? And a good way to do this test would, so that people don't get emotional, give them a blank piece of paper. Right? A blank piece of paper and have them write it so they don't have to be embarrassed and they don't sit there looking cockeyed, and then just collect it so that then you catch them. So also so they can't switch up. Now, anybody that doesn't have a nationality is automatically boarded of the state, or clear. And automatically subject to the Christian Black Codes of 1724, and will be treated accordingly. And it's not good treatment either. You understand? Now, if one of you have on the paper any of the nations of the earth, you will be afforded or accorded certain what you call honor treatments that the others would not get. It's not necessarily said it's done. Because without a nationality, you have no rights. Do you understand?
So that goes back
The
to
other deal, say again.
That goes back to my question that I asked if I was always under the impression that your race or your background as far as
All right, now
is determined by your father or not.
Yeah, now this, because the race is the human race.
Right.
See, and that's where you get with the social engineering, where the people have been told races. That's connotative linguistics. That's designed to get you off of nationality. That's social engineering. So why are you giving this information so you can start correcting that? Because you're talking from your training, but you're assuming the training is proper education. You know, culture's in the language. Even dead culture is in the language. You know, so people who are held to servitude are given a certain language so that when they open their mouth, they will prove their status. That's your brand. In other words, just like a cattle runaway, or they go lift up the leg and see the brand. All they got to do is stop you and start talking, and that's your brand. Your language will tell them everything that they need to know. As soon as you start that crayon stuff, they already know they got a slave.
So, to me, in the language that I understand, which is biblical, life and death is truly in the power of the tongue.
Now, yes,
Language.
this is why they say the Word, first there was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And people are told that, and yet they don't pay attention to, they were told the truth. Because they sit around thinking God and paying little attention to the Word. And yet it's clearly telling you that. So that means if you don't know the etymon, you can't break the egg to the matrix and know who your mom is. And he who has no mother is a ward of the state. Therefore you have no birthright. Then that's another way to look at chapter 25 with Esau and Jacob. You see? And even with Rebekah fooling Isaac, you know what I mean? Relative to the dispensation of the birthright. And they're also telling you that in the Matrix. So that's why even in the Matrix with the guy who has the pills, his name is what? Moor. Phias. See, they tell you on multiple levels, but people don't pay attention.
But the thing is, what I think she's missing is, and not want to pay attention to it, is that we are white.
Yes,
but
we're the white people, they're the black people.
Status.
Because it is status.
Now, or nothing like that.
Yeah, exactly. Now, and when the sister, when you were talking from the order of the training that's in society, from complexion, not knowing that it's legal status, which is why we have him read, so we can clean your mind up. You have to be baptized. You have to be reborn with a new mind. Because you don't know what's really going on. You're making assumptions, not because you're dumb, because that's the education that everybody out there is given. And so not knowing that the culture's in the language, you're confessing your own with your language, not knowing it's designed to maintain a caste system. And when you become national, you're given the comparatives. In other words, when you're national, what is done, you're literally given the card, the marked deck, and shown the marked aces. This is why once you're national, they're holding you to it. And if you don't live up to it, they're going to put you back into them black codes. That's what they're doing to you.
That's right.
But you need to be aware of it because you won't counter it because you're looking at something else. It's sort of like you're looking at the cookies instead of the box. You took 5 cookies. We gotta stop them from taking 5 cookies. You don't even know you own the whole estate. This is where our problem is. And then persons who are selling you out come and say like this, what I want you to do, I want you to bring me your cable bill. Now notice what I'm saying. Your cable bill, your mortgage payment, your car payment, and what we're gonna do, we're gonna sit at the table, we're gonna discharge it. And you get all fired up. Oh man, this is tight. When I should be telling you the whole estate is yours. You should be getting a voucher. Now we're talking in language that you're not even familiar with because the classification that our people have been living their lives in under the Christian black codes. Most of them going to church tomorrow, funding their own enslavement, don't even know it. And you can't even pull them from that because they'll get defensive. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Because they don't know that that preacher is a 501c3 agent for Lyndon Baines Johnson to keep the fraud going on. They think it came from Jesus. Do you understand what I'm saying? They're state agents. And so they're trained under this. Do you understand? And so we got to take you to law so that you don't think it's just coming from us. Because if somebody just give you that conversation out their mouth, even though they're right, people just say, oh, that's your belief. And this is my belief, because our people have been trained that beliefs are knowledge. Beliefs are not knowledge. Beliefs are for children, goats, and kids, and rabbits. Knowledge is for adults. And when you become adult, you're supposed to put your childish things aside. Our people don't know those rules because they have not been educated. And so they protect their beliefs, not knowing that's the first level degree for children. It's not, you're not supposed to be in a belief degree when you get a teenager. You're supposed to be in a faith degree when you get a teenager. Then when you become an adult, you're supposed to be into fruition. And most of the people don't even know those degrees exist because the preachers will never tell them. 90% of your preachers are 32-degree Masons, got a Moorish fez in secret and act like they don't know that our people are Moors. And you get kickback payments from this European. Been taken to the mountaintop, that's that great seal. And then seen the promised land, that's the eye of Allah. It's on back of that note that they keep running for, that they call a dollar bill, which is not a dollar. Do you understand the problem?
Wow.
So we've got to get our people out of their emotions, out of their defensiveness, out of their ego, and get them to deal with facts and start growing up, stop being boys and girls, and take responsibility in life and honor their mothers and fathers like they keep fakely claiming to, which they absolutely do not. And then suffer the consequences and stop calling it racism. Racism is the human species. As an example, If we walked out of here right now and I took you down to that Masonic Lodge right there on, right outside of City Hall, and then took you to City Hall, then took you to the Moorish Museum, right? And then tell you just take pictures and come back and discuss what you see, most people would miss everything that's significant right there and would relate to very little other than this most interesting stuff and don't even know it's all talking about them. Do you understand? Tell them to take the City Hall and say, find the cornerstone to the building. Most of the people who go around there all day long wouldn't find the cornerstone because they wouldn't recognize it's in a grave pit right in the dark north, right inside the parapet that's designed just like a mosque. You understand? Because they don't know how to pay attention to details. But people come from all around the world, take pictures. Know your history is right in the architecture. Everybody knows it but us, because we think we black people. You understand we're disconnected. And so you can't connect the people with a good conversation. You have to show them history and law. Other than that, they'll never get connected because they're psychologically suffering disassociation and think that they're saved. So what do you do with that? Their baby's going to be dying younger and younger while they're lying to them, telling them that they're saved. And they're convinced, not, the reality is not that. That's their mental reality. It's not real. They're burying them younger and younger every week. They can't make enough funeral homes. But they're saved. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? And you give them facts and they'll start telling you what their beliefs are. Beliefs are for children. Fruition is for adults. You know, are you aware of anything about ancient Africa, Asia, ancient Yucatan, any of the learning systems?
No, not outside of what I was taught in school.
Yeah, well, they will ritually take people through learning systems with a cube, which would be designed as an altar, very fancy, from ancient Lemuria, and passed down to ancient Egypt, which you will be told in school is Egypt, which it is not, it's Egypt. And those three candle lights that will be around the altar would represent the third rock from the sun and also enlightenment. Also, the third dimension that we deal with in the physical body and symbolized by a pyramid, which you'll find all across the planet Earth that represents civilization on the planet Earth. And that first candlelight would represent belief, the second candlelight would represent faith, third candlelight represents fruition. The reflection of the three, that trinity, is the reflection of the first light of belief would be neophyte. The reflection of the second candlelight would be scholar. And the reflection of the third light would be master. All of your imams, all of your master masons, all of your skull and bones members, all of your daughters of ISIS, Eastern Star, Kaiklos, Ku Klux Klan, rulers, government official, industrialists, who get their PhDs, Grand Sheiks, assistant Grand Sheiks, Sheikesses, all of them are PhDs and all of them are Gnostics. They're on that third light. That's the master's degree. Do you understand? The believers who pay the bills usually are never made aware of that, which means the leadership is not necessarily being totally honest with them, are they? Because they make them think they've arrived with the belief degree. They kept them as little boys and girls, minorities. You see why you got to read it? And so when you talk to them from that degree or from a master's degree, it confuses them. Not because it's not available to them, because they're never exposed to it. And so what happens when you start exposing them to this information, there will be first a mental clash. So you've got to try to build an air of comfort so they can receive this information so they don't start fighting you when you're actually throwing them a life raft. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because they think you're trying to hurt them. They think you're trying to take their God from them, that type of thing, when you're actually raising them. Because they never had it. They think they had it. You know, just like you give people fiat. As the perfect example, right? For yourself. Come up for a minute, please, sis. Right. Now, come over here. And then so like basically under most circumstances, like if you don't know better and they work you to death all day, right? And they say, oh, I'm paying you. And then you go, right?
But if you really were educated, you know better. Why? Because I didn't give you this. Because that's the money. This is counterfeit. So a free man, free woman knows this even if they're handling this. But a slave never knows this and don't know the difference. The same is with beliefs and religion. The masses get dogma. The priesthood gets religion. The masses get dogma. The priests get religion. The masses get color of law. The priests get jurisprudence, which you're reading, which is the science of positive law. Therefore, we've got to get you, and when we say you, we're talking plural, right? To be sophisticated enough to grow up to know the difference. Now, as an example, Constitution, right? We talk about Constitution, right? Now, remember Constitution, we can talk third grade, right? Let's talk third grade, right? And we take the Constitution as an example.
Is it in there?
Preamble.
That's the old one before.
This is the old one?
Yeah.
Now, this is Section 10, right? This is Constitution for the United States Republic, right? Now, remember, sis, when you was up and we just mentioned the Constitution, right? It's supreme law of the land, right? I'll show you what the treaty and Constitution one, right? Now read this. You know, just read this. Read that.
Section 10. No state shall enter into any treaty.
Say loud.
A little bit louder. A little bit louder.
I'm sorry. No state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation. Grant letters of grant letters of marque and reprisal. Reprisal.
Yeah.
Coin.
For this, I gotta silence this. Hold on. Wait till this. Yeah. Go ahead.
Section 10. No state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation. Grant letters of marque and reprisal. Reprisal. Coin, money, emit bills of credit, make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts. Pass any bill of
attainder. Now you can stop right there, because the part that I wanted you to read is what you just read. That's the supreme law of the land. That's what pays the debt. And so the people got this, think they're getting paid. They've never been paid. They don't even know they're in slavery. Do you see the point that I'm making, sis? Now you see what you just read?
Yeah.
That's the Constitution. Yeah, but I'm just saying that's the supreme law of the land.
So basically, you're not supposed to be receiving money like this.
No, this ain't money, this is counterfeit. That's the money. No,
we all think that's
exactly. Therefore, if you train people from childhood and they're adults, they're still minors, aren't they? Now you see why they call us boys and girls? And then we run around talking trash like we know what's up, don't even know we're in slavery. That's what makes this so powerful. A corpse was created to slay the living. That's how it's done. In other words, you've got adults that are actually miseducated that think they know what they're talking about. They don't know jack. But they're talking about freedom. They're talking about rights. They don't even know what rights are. See the contempt that they have for our people when they're dealing with our people. We don't even know basic stuff. That's the Constitution, third grade civics. Is this a silver coin? Is that a silver coin? Is this a silver coin? Is that a silver coin? Well, which one is the money? Oh, is that complex? Not at all, is it? And yet, most people would argue with you, wouldn't they? That's
I
where,
love arguing with you.
that's where the problem comes in.
Go ahead, girl.
No, I'm just saying, that's where the problem comes in. Now, when you're national, this comes into play. The consciousness comes into play. Because when you're protecting your birthright, you must argue the law, not your emotions. And if you don't know the difference, you have just waived your birthrights. See how simple that is? But yet it's only complex when you are absent of the knowledge. Only that.
So that's what they mean when they say that the Europeans have brainwashed us not to believe that that's
Exactly, because we're sharecropping and thought the stuff was over. Just like if you look at most people, and it's true, yeah, it's true. Like if you look at most people that have deeds, right? And they be going to church, my synagogue, talking big trash, talking about what they own, right? And if they read that deed, they'll be listed as a tenant. You know what a tenant is, right? What's a tenant?
someone who's paying bills,
No, a tenant, yeah, oh, now, say it again.
paying rent.
All right, so for the renter, if you're renting, what point do you get confused that with owning? Oh, well, but they be, see the point, they're sharecropping. Now you understand why these banks can keep coming getting these houses from these people? Because they can't read. And those who can don't. And you can't tell them nothing because they saved. See the problem we have? This is again why you're here. So you want to know about birthright. You're being told about birthright. And there's little nuances. It's little nuances that in the long run make the difference with you winning or losing in any legal argument. And if someone doesn't point it out to you, you can live your whole life a slave and not even know it. That's how this thing has worked. Now you understand Harriet Tubman's statement when she said one of the most difficult things to do is to free a slave that don't know they're slaves. And guess what? You can't tell them nothing. 90% of the time, why? Because they saved. Am I lying? Isn't that the truth? Isn't that the dynamics? And so when you're trying to get this information to people, you got to get over their ego. You got to make them know that you're not attacking their beliefs because they're going to get defensive. Because after all, they got degrees on the wall. All that kind of stuff. You see the problem? So again, you know, for the benefit of everybody that doesn't come all the time, these are nuances to what nationality applies. Because in society, when you start getting into legal trouble, if you don't know these differences, that magistrate, is sitting there in the east and letting you talk yourself right into a hole. Because your language will expose who you are, your legal status, whether you are white or whether you property. And if you don't know you white, logically, you ain't going to say it because you think it's complexion, wouldn't you? And it's a legal status. See how our people have been played? Do you understand? So I want you to see it for yourself. All right, but sometimes you got to demonstrate. Mom says.
Can you have him to read? I was trying to explain to her about black being an adjective. Can you have him to read black?
Now that's a law dictionary. Does anybody have an unabridged dictionary here?
No.
I didn't bring my books. Usually I would. I didn't bring my books only because I was assuming that everybody would have stuff here, just like I found this here. Because actually, you're supposed to, when you come to these classes, you're supposed to bring your stuff. And not like, I shouldn't, but I didn't think I needed it, you know, because, you know, I'll have my books, and then I'll sit, just like I got this from D, right? I got this from D. You know, you bring your stuff, because this is school. It's casual, but it's school. You know, but anyway, as an example, let me give you an etymology degree. But anyway, that's the Constitution for the United States Republic. Remember, read that, remember? Also people around you, family members, etc. Make sure that they are well groomed in that because they make assumptions. Like say if you're in any legal process and the judge say to you, person who claims to the judge, you got $5. And then you say, well, I don't have no money. You just walk into the jurisdiction because you ain't never had no money. If you ain't had this, you ain't had no money.
IRS send you something talking about, yours $550, and we're gonna garnish your account. Oh, you are? Well, I don't have any income. Never did. Now, why do they list people's labor as income? Because they're listed as corpses. Did you know that? Because a corporation is what is being taxed, not a living being. So they misclassify you as black, which is a corpse, and now you're taxable as a foreign entity, a construct of the state. The creation, the creature. You see? So nationality, you're supposed to be stepping out of that and making it clear. I'm not property. You see that, you know what your obligations are to international law. Oh, you don't think so? How about looking at the rights of indigenous people that Obama just signed? Don't act like you're confused, because you're obligated to this. I'm not asking you for anything. I'm demanding. That's how you're supposed to talk. Public servant. That's how you're supposed to talk. But if you're not a national mind, you're not going to talk that way. You're going to submit to the Negro conversation.
Oh, please, I didn't have no peanut butter sandwiches, and my cousin works in McDonald's. I want to see if I can borrow $5 to make a payment.
No, I ain't paying you crap. You got to understand, claim your estate. Or you kind of get the feeling? Yeah. All right. Thank you very much. Give her a hand, y'all.
Yeah.
You also like pretty soft, so you can understand that. So this means, like, basically, if our people, no matter what school of thought they come from, what house of learning they come from, this is basic to all of us. And what happens is our people, for the most part, have been under the conception that this information just comes from Moorish Science Temple. And this stuff is universal. It's just that the Moorish Science Temple is an institution that has promoted it. Not always correctly, but that's the institution that has promoted it. Yet the information is universal, and the obligations are universal. This is where our damage comes in, and where we must correct with each other when we're dispensing this information. Are there any other questions? Are there any misconceptions that you think might need to be cleared up? Islam says.
Islam, bro. Civilian. What is a civilian?
All right, Greek civilian. Now, also, these dynamics are routine. How y'all doing, sis? Oh, you came through the door and you bring no sandwiches?
I'm sorry?
Y'all don't bring no sandwiches, no fried fish, no taste salad?
We didn't even know nobody was there.
All right. We're going to try, though. So we civilian.
That's funny, a lot of words are going around. I just happened to read them before you say. A civilian. One who is skilled or versed in the civil law.
Now stop right there. What does it tell you already? And so our people, the ordinary civilians as they call themselves, don't even know they're obligated to this, do they? So what occurs when our people are marching around, protesting around, talking trash about rights and this and that, and don't even know what the swell they're talking about? They're in contempt, aren't they? Because they're assuming the barristers of England are the ones supposed to know law. They're required to know the law. See what happened in the Constitution? You see the point? And so what happens, we go out incompetent and are held accordingly. As a matter of fact, you're in contempt for not dealing with this. Back to Drawley, he says, help me in my mission. He tells you what the mission is. He says, to bring my people back into the constitutional fold of government. Didn't he say that? And then you'll see some grand sheiks turn around and say, Drawley didn't teach civics. Right after that statement, which is clearly civilization and civics. Civics, which is the science of government and citizenry.
Religion.
Yes. And on top, don't even get religion, because religion is cosmogony and the philosophy that accompanies it. Universally. You get the point? Yes. But continue, and then I want you to, if you feel that you want to dispense, consideration on it, go ahead and do so.
Okay. a civilian, a doctor, professor, or student of the civil law. Also, a private citizen, as distinguished from such as belong to the Army and Navy, or in England, the church.
So now the ordinary person walking around the street don't even know that they're required to know the law. So when Drawley says, I'm what? Help me in my mission to bring my people back into the constitutional fold of government, what is he implying? That they have been artificially held out. Therefore, the institution is established to bring them back in. And how do you bring them back in? We are teaching our people those things which are necessary to make them better citizens. That's civics. You see the point? So part of what you're getting now is civics. So that you can understand why you're being nationalized, what this is about. We don't want you to accept it because, oh, that's interesting. You have to know it is attached to your birthright. If you don't know that, you're not going to take it serious. Then you're going back out there and get beat up with the Negro Acts. And then wonder what the swell's going on. Well, it's because you're Negroes, classification.
So you're not considered a civilian unless you're skilled or versed in civil.
No, exactly. So then you're a ward of the state, aren't you? And if you're a ward of the state, don't talk trash because you're a ward. A ward is a legal term that's used, a nice term, kind of mean a slave dependent. That's what it means. So don't talk trash. I got my rights because we're going to protest. Keep trying it. Then they do the Rodney King on you. They're racist. Yes and no, yes and no. Your concept was kind of twisted. Are we looking at this differently?
Definitely, a whole lot. To me, what it's doing for me personally is it's like, for me, because I do have strong roots in a lot of belief systems that the average person had. But for me, it's basically a very foundational belief is God's telling me that the helping hand that you asking me for is at the end of your own arm, homie.
Whoa.
You got some responsibility to do it. I ain't gonna help you till you help yourself.
Right.
Like we calling on all these forces in nature and so on and so forth. I'm not saying they're not present. I will never say that they're not present and active.
Yeah,
but I think from my own personal journey, they're showing me how much responsibility
Yes.
I got.
Yes.
And it's being thrown back at us.
Freedom in my own
And we
way.
need to know that it's being thrown back at us. And everything that's hard is not necessarily wrong.
That's right.
Is that we've been abused so many generations that we have actually relinquished certain responsibilities of self and to self that should never be relinquished.
So in other sense, it's not really nobody doing it to us. We're doing it to ourselves.
Because we don't know ourselves.
We're not know ourselves.
Exactly.
We're not using what was given to us by natural law to
Yes.
even correct
Exactly.
and address
Go ahead,
the
bro.
situation. So
Yes.
they're doing
Yes.
to
They're
us.
seizing advantage of us in our ignorance.
Exactly.
It is no different than, like say for instance, even though we're chilling out, right? You know, like say you can go in a field, right, and lay down and, you know, enjoy the sun, stuff like that, right? But I suggest this. If you sleep in that field all day and don't be moving around a lot, I guarantee you that turkey buzzers will start circling. Now, you can make the determination to get up, because they're going to come and test you. Is that real? You know what I mean? You keep standing still, they're going to come and peck you, and you wake up, and then they'll move. But if you don't wake up, they're going to start eating. And so it is in social life. If you remain in a civiliter mortu state of mind, they're going to treat you as a corpse. And they're going to feed on you because they're vampires. Exploitation and vampirism are synonyms. Look it up in the dictionary.
Right. So, she has a question.
No, I want you to look up another word. Finish that.
Okay. Well, I think the next thing I was going to say is, again, the language, how it speaks to me from my understanding. For me, in comedic science, this will be identical to Set ruling the self.
Yes.
which is the will.
Yes.
And having this information and utilizing it will be the will.
You
taking
recognize,
that foundation
you're recognizing, you're beginning to recognize when you're talking a star set, upper world, lower world, higher self, lower self, that it goes on all levels, even into the laws that govern man, and you're in it right now. There's a relationship. Now you understand how divine law is translated into civilization. It's reflected. And if you know one, you're supposed to know the other. Don't get in the race with one leg tied, talking about you going to win, because you most likely won't. You could. It might beat that guy in a wheelchair. His arms get tired, but most likely you ain't going to be, you know. And so we're coming into society or operating in society not knowing that law and history go together like your left and right leg. They're not separate disciplines. The more you begin to study, the more you're going to recognize that for yourself, even without being told. But to shortcut a lot of years of learning, I'm telling you so that you can observe it. And then I say this. Recognize the injury that occurs to our people in general, because most of our people aren't aware of that fact, and therefore they see no obligation on their part to know law and history together. They think they're separate. They're not. They were separated in order to maintain the status dead that we're in. But it is in fact a violation of divine law. It is in fact a violation of civilization. It is in fact a violation of education. But in fact, our people don't know that because they've been controlled by those who have been exploiting them. So it's difficult to tell them that when the master's sick, don't you start talking about we sick, master. But our people are still in that mentality. Islam, brother.
Islam. And there's one thing you alluded to, which I'm quite sure that you saw, is like a muscle. A muscle gets stronger as it works. It gets weaker as it lays down and just doesn't do anything. The same thing is prevalent with those magistrates. They're not used to dealing with someone that knows law. Mm-hmm. So when they're confronted with it, the first thing, they're shocked. Mm-hmm. And they don't know what exactly to do because they haven't been tried in so long. They've been in the thing of whatever I say.
Color of law.
I am the jurisdiction, and don't even know what jurisdiction is.
Yeah.
So when you put jurisdiction and you tell him what it is, oh, he's good. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
You know. So the thing is, we're building up, and they're falling down. Mm-hmm. That's the thing.
And we need to be aware of it. Not just be sideline observers.
Exactly.
Yeah, we got to be cognizant of what's going on and be preparing ourselves for what's going to happen inevitably. Because anybody that don't understand the state ain't going to eat. You know? And so we're trying to get our people prepared so when this crash that really has already taken place manifests on a large scale and they start trying to reduce the population that they have.